Chapter 1535. Fang Ziyue could not help but gulp when she met Yi Chen's gaze. She said weakly, "Senior Yi, are you sure you're not at void refinement?" She had seen Yi Chen's techniques before, but she did not expect him to kill 3 people with a flip of his palm. His lightning-fast techniques were too shocking. "No!" Yi Chen bent down and picked up the storage rings of the 3 of them. He shook his head lightly and led her to the northwest corner. The desolate god's tomb was located in the south. It was a ring-shaped area formed by countless rocks. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and the ground was covered in half-meter-tall, withered leaves and rotten beast corpses. Many rotting gases evolved and eventually turned into miasma that filled a radius of 100 kilometers. It was as if a black curtain had been placed over it. At that moment, 2 figures were chasing wildly in the forest. The one leading was a woman in green. She was only 16 or 18 years old. The woman's face was pale as she ran for her life, as if she was hiding from someone. A few hundred meters behind her, there was a sword gleam following closely. On the sword gleam was a sinister-looking middle-aged man. The man looked at the figure in front of him, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his lips. His gaze was like a cat toying with a mouse. He could have caught up to the woman earlier, but he was not in a hurry because the woman was already at the end of her tether and could not hold on for long. The 2 figures, one in front and one behind, traversed over 100 kilometers. The woman in green spat another mouthful of blood, and her speed instantly increased by more than 2-fold. However, as soon as the distance widened, the middle-aged man with the sword gleam instantly closed the distance. The woman could not help but reveal a bitter expression. She had been running for an hour. During this hour, the other party had been following closely behind her. If she had not used her escape technique at all costs, he would have caught up to her long ago. However, she knew very well that she could only use this escape technique a few times. Once the spiritual energy in her body was exhausted, she would not be able to escape. Thinking to this point, she could only force herself to continue running forward. The middle-aged man who was chasing behind frowned slightly and shouted, "Little girl from the heavenly jade holy land, you won't be able to hold on for long. Why don't you hand over that pill fragment? I promise to let you live." The azure-clothed woman didn't slow down. She said in despair, "Senior, I don't understand what you're talking about. Since you know that I'm from the heavenly jade holy land, you should know that the holy daughter of the heavenly jade holy land is also here. If she finds out..." As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately felt the monstrous killing intent coming from behind her, and her expression couldn't help but change. After that, she bit her lips and said, "Senior, why don't you let me go? I, Yin Shi, guarantee that I won't tell anyone about what happened today. Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me." The expression of the middle-aged man who was controlling the sword light turned cold. He then used all his strength to control the flying sword to fly away. His eyes were extremely cold. The azure-clothed woman's words reminded him that if he continued like this and attracted the attention of the people from the heavenly jade holy land, it would be difficult for him to escape. Boom! His figure was like a bolt of lightning, catching up to the woman in a few breaths. Almost at that instant, the green-clothed woman who was fleeing for her life also felt this change, and she could not help but feel despair. Could it be that I, Yin Shi, am really going to die here? Ha ha, slut from the heavenly jade holy land. The middle-aged man could not help but become extremely ferocious when he saw that. Don't worry, I, Taoist Master Feng Yang, won't kill you directly. Instead, I'll let you die in comfort. I'll let you experience what's so special about the women that the heavenly jade holy land trains. Hearing that, the green-clothed woman's body trembled violently. Then, she stopped and closed her eyes, about to self-destruct. Almost at that instant, 2 figures rushed over from afar. It was a man and a woman. The woman was as beautiful as fire, while the man was a handsome young man. Who else could it be but Yi Chen and Fang Ziyue? The sudden scene caused Taoist Master Feng Yang to pause. He looked at Yi Chen and Fang Ziyue in fear. "I'm Taoist Master Feng Yang. Greetings, Ms. Fang." Hearing that, The green-clothed woman who was about to self-destruct suddenly opened her eyes. Then, as if she had seen her savior, she said, "Sister Fong, save me. I'm Yun Shi, a disciple of the Heavenly Jade Holy Land." "You're from the Heavenly Jade Holy Land?" Fong's U.S. said with a slight frown. Yun Shi nodded immediately. "That's right. Sister Fong, this Taoist Master Feng Yang has his eyes on my purple color and is trying to do something to me. Please save me." Fong's Yue could not help but look at Taoist Master Feng Yang as soon as she said that. Her expression turned slightly cold. She despised such lowly people the most. Taoist Master Feng Yang's expression changed, and he shook his head hard. "Ms. Fong, you mustn't believe this lady's lies. This lady stole something from me. That's why I came all the way here." "Nonsense." Yun Shi's face turned pale from anger, but she had no other words to explain herself. Both of them knew that the item was extremely important. They could not let a third party know about it, no matter what. Otherwise, it would be a wasted effort. At that moment, Fong Ziyue could not tell who was telling the truth. She could not help but look at Yi Chun. "Senior Yi, what do you think?" Yi Chun glanced at Taoist Master Feng Yang and Yun Shi coldly. Meeting his gaze, Taoist Master Feng Yang and Yun Shi could not help but panic for some reason. Subsequently, they lowered their heads at the same time. "Let's go," Yi Chun said coldly as he retracted his gaze. Fong Ziyue was stunned at first, but she did not ask further. Clearly, she knew that Yi Chun did not want to be a busybody, while Taoist Master Feng Yang was secretly delighted to see that the killing intent in his eyes skyrocketed. He secretly made up his mind to kill Yun Shi after he obtained the item from her and escape to Heavenly Evil City. He had no choice because Fong Ziyue and Fong Ziyue already knew about this. Meanwhile, Yun Shi's face turned pale. She could not help but say, "Ms. Fong, as long as you save me, I'm willing to hand over the item in my hand." At that moment, she finally panicked. If Yi Chun and Fong Ziyue really did not care about her, she would definitely die. Fong Ziyue stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at her. "What is it?" Yun Shi bit her lip and said, "A fragment of a holy herb." "Shut up, bitch." At the same time, Taoist Master Feng Yang suddenly attacked. He attacked Yun Shi with all his might. Clearly, he wanted to shut her up, but it was too late. Boom! In an instant, a pressure that belonged to a perfected God transformation cultivator exploded from his body. Under the pressure, Yin Shi felt like a mountain was pressing down on her. She was extremely terrified. Just when Taoist Master Feng Yang's hand was less than an inch away from Yun Shi, he suddenly stopped. He suddenly realized that he could not move his body at all, as if an invisible hand was controlling him. Yi Chun turned around slowly and looked at the pale Yun Shi calmly. He said calmly, "Did you say that you have a fragment of the holy herb?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1536. Not bad. Yin Shi pursed her lips and nodded slowly. At the same time, extreme shock surged within her. An existence like Taoist Master Feng Yang, who was at perfected God transformation stage, was frozen in the air like a puppet. Even a saintess of the Heavenly Jade Holy Land could not do that. At that moment, she finally realized that Yi Chun was the truly terrifying one among Yi Chun and Fong Ziyue's group. On the other hand, although Taoist Master Feng Yang, who was frozen in midair, could not move, he was extremely glad. His eyes widened as if he had seen something terrifying. "Take it out." Yi Chun walked to Yun Shi slowly and extended his hand. He said, "If you're not lying to me, I'll kill this person for you. If you're lying to me, all of you will die." Meeting his gaze, Yun Shi's heart shuddered, and the hesitation in her mind was instantly thrown away completely. She opened her storage ring with trembling hands. Immediately, an item that looked like a tortoise shell landed in her hand. There were patterns that were difficult to see with the naked eye engraved on it. It was indeed the incomplete map of the 5-element heavenly lotus. Yi Chun nodded calmly. He had no less than 3 map fragments now. Including this one, he still needed the one in the Tianyuan Trade Association's secret treasure and the one in the Mermaid Clan's patriarch's hand. He could piece the entire map fragment together and find out the exact whereabouts of the five-element heavenly lotus. Seeing that he was not moving, Yunshi was extremely nervous. She immediately spoke weakly. "Senior." She was extremely worried that Yi-chan did not need the holy medicine fragment. If that was the case, then her fate, bang. Before she could finish speaking, she suddenly heard an explosion. She turned her head by instinct and saw Taoist Master Feng Yang, who was frozen in midair, explode, and turn into a bloody mist. Yunshi stood still with a terrified expression. Taoist Master Feng Yang, who had forced her to the point of almost self-destructing earlier, was dead just like that? She did not even have the ability to resist. "I want this." Yi-chan looked at her and said, "I'll keep my promise and kill this person for you. Of course, this item is precious, and I don't want to take advantage of you. You can make a request." I wouldn't dare." Yunshi nodded repeatedly. "Senior being able to save my life is already an enormous kindness. How could Junior dare to make any further requests? Since that's the case, then I won't force you." Yi-chan shook his head and changed the topic. "Now, can you tell me where did you get the remnant of the holy medicine?" Even he did not expect that he would be able to obtain a fragment of the five-element heavenly lotus in the desolate god's tomb. Yunshi did not dare to look him in the eye. She held her breath and said, "Senior, I obtained this item from the desolate god's tomb. To be more precise, I obtained it from the stomach of an ape-type demonic beast." "An ape mystical beast?" Yi-chan frowned. Yunshi thought that he did not believe her, and immediately said, "That's right, it is an ape-type demon beast. As soon as Junior entered the desolate god's tomb, he was attacked by it, and Junior obtained it from its stomach after killing it." Yi-chan looked at her quietly. He said after seeing that she did not seem to be faking it, "Where did you find that ape-type mystical beast?" He was not willing to let go of any clues that were related to the five-element heavenly lotus. After all, it concerned Su Yuhan's life. In the middle of the desolate god's tomb, this place was the closest to the great desolation old man's main tomb. However, what was strange was that countless vegetation here had been demonized. The terrifying demonic energy did not dissipate all year round, as if it was showing signs of devouring outwards. Bang! After a figure forcefully annihilated a demonized giant snake, he looked at the surrounding scene that was like purgatory on earth and frowned. What exactly are these black things? They are actually so difficult to deal with. This figure seemed to be a man. His chest and abdomen were exposed, his cheekbones were high, and his brows were extremely fierce. "Brother Luo," a young man slowly walked out from beside him. The young man said with a serious expression, "This black energy looks a little like demonic energy. Could it be that this desolate god's tomb has also been invaded by the demonic energy in the demonic soil?" The two of them were Luo Xiao and Feng Chengwu. Luo Xiao was surprised. "Demonic energy?" Sensing his confusion, Feng Chengwu said rather proudly, "Brother Luo might not know, but in this universe, there's a great world enveloped in demonic energy. This world is known as the demon world. The living beings of the demon world are all bathed in demonic energy and have fierce temperaments. Rumor has it that the master of the demon world has a status comparable to the celestial world's venerable emperor." Hearing these words, Luo Xiao's pupils violently constricted. He was only a rogue cultivator, so he did not know that there was such a secret. Now that he heard Feng Chengwu's words, a storm was set off in his heart. Looks like it really is as old ghost Lei Yin said. The seal left behind by the great Emperor Xian Yuan can no longer suppress the demonic soil. The demonic energy of the demonic soil has begun to corrode the core and periphery of the Yin ruins. Feng Chengwu said worriedly, "I hope that the corrosion of the desolate god's tomb is not serious. Otherwise, once a terrifying monster is born, even a void refinement stage cultivator will have a headache. I wonder where that Yi fellow is right now." Luo Xiao's eyes narrowed and became ghastly cold. "I do not wish for this child to die prematurely in the desolate god's tomb because I have already said that I will personally capture him, grind his bones to dust, extract his soul, and refine it. Brother Luo, you must not be careless. Fong Chung-woo said in a deep voice. Don't forget what we saw before entering the tomb. That Yi fellow and Huang Fu you seem to be old friends. If you deal with him, Huang Fu, you might intervene. Huang Fu. Luo Xiao's pupils constricted slightly, as if he was afraid. Your worries are not unreasonable. A mere Yi fellow is nothing to worry about, but if Huang Fu Yu is added, it will be a little troublesome. So, what I mean is, why don't we form an alliance? Fong Chung-woo said. Luo Xiao looked at him. An alliance? That's right. Fong Chung-woo nodded and said, it will be very difficult for the two of us to deal with Huang Fu Yu. Why don't we form an alliance with the Panwu immortal sect and the great Jiang God dynasty? At that time, even if we encounter Huang Fu Yu and that Yi fellow, we will not be afraid at all. Good plan. Luo Xiao's eyes lit up, and he said with a sinister smile, Huang Fu Yu is from the Yin Huang fortress, and he is not on good terms with the great Jiang God dynasty and the Panwu immortal sect. If we form an alliance, Jiang Li and the others will definitely be happy. I have another plan, Fong Chung-woo said again. After we form an alliance, we will kill the Yi brat first. That way, apart from the few good-for-nothings from the Xianyuan 8 families, Huang Fu Yu will be alone. He won't be able to cause too much trouble. All right, after forming an alliance, we will join forces with Jiang Li and the others to kill that Yi fellow first. Luo Xiao laughed loudly. Even though we don't have to use such a great array of forces to deal with that kid, but for the sake of preventing the situation from changing, it's better to play it safe. I don't believe that the joint forces of us great geniuses are unable to kill a nobody. End of this chapter. Chapter 1537. It was located to the west of the desolate God's tomb. Following the guidance of the heavenly jade Holy Land's disciple, Yun Shi's memory, Yi Chun sped west. He only wanted to check if there were any other fragments of the 5-element heaven lotus. This time, he did not bring Yun Shi and Fong Ziyu along. Instead, he got the two girls to wait for him. After all, it was related to the 5-element heaven lotus. In less than an hour, he arrived at the place that Yun Shi had mentioned. It was a vast expanse of whiteness. A hazy fog enveloped everything, as if a sea of clouds was churning. However, this fog was bone-piercingly cold, as if it could freeze a person's soul. If a person with a low cultivation base stepped into it, they would be frozen into an ice sculpture instantly. Whoosh, 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 Yi-Chin stood in the endless cold fog. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and he was not affected at all. However, his divine consciousness spread out and covered an area of 50 kilometers. Although this place was not big, there were many ferocious beasts and demons in the fog. There were even cultivators fighting crazily with the former. There were even a few rather powerful auras. Over there, Yi-Chin suddenly looked at the northwest corner. There he sensed a few powerful auras fighting at that moment. There was also a pungent smell of blood. Boom! He took a step forward and soared into the sky, turning into a long rainbow that pierced through the heavens and earth as he teleported towards the northwest corner. Rumble! His speed was extremely fast, and he mercilessly crushed the cold waterfall that had condensed in the air. As a result, the air emitted an earth-shattering rumble. What a powerful aura! Who is this person? Could it be that someone is coming for the Jade Fire Golden-Eyed Ape again? Almost at that instant, the figures that were fighting on the ground all sensed the tremors in the air. They raised their heads at the same time to size it up, and their faces were filled with shock. Even an ordinary late-stage soul formation cultivator would have to deal with the bone-piercing cold fog carefully, afraid that they would die if they were careless. However, at that moment, someone ignored this and arrogantly passed through the space condensed by the cold waterfall. To their regret, the cold fog in the air was too dense. Coupled with Yi-Chen's speed as fast as lightning, they could not capture his figure. 100 miles deep into the cold mist was a heavenly stream. At this moment, numerous shapeless restrictions and formations were circulating in the sky, and they were refined into one. They covered an area of 5 kilometers, and energy surged while killing intent rose and fell continuously. Put in more effort, this beast won't be able to hold on much longer, Stabilize the formation. Don't let that evil creature escape. Waves of intense battle sounds vaguely resounded from the heavenly stream. It was accompanied by the furious roars of ferocious beasts, causing the formation in the sky to shake and crack. Heavenly Jade Fairy. This evil creature is running towards you. Jiang Li, who was dressed in crimson battle robes, held a long spear in his hand and guarded one side. His expression was ferocious as he watched the enormous black shadow-like creature in the distance charge toward the southeast corner. There were many figures standing guard around him. They were the people from the heavenly Jade Holy Land, the Panwu Immortal Sect, and the Taichu Dojo. If one took a closer look, they would discover that it was a giant ape that was nearly 300 meters tall. Its entire body was blooming with jade-green flames, and its eyes were incomparably resplendent like two small suns. Roar! The giant ape was covered in blood, as if it had been forced into a corner. It simply roared at the sky and urged its huge body to pounce toward the heavenly Jade Holy Maiden who was guarding the southeast corner. Its roar immediately produced a terrifying sound wave that shook the heavenly Jade Holy Maiden's eardrums to the point that she almost could not hold on. Form a formation. Quickly form a formation. Seeing this scene, the great Jiang God dynasty's godson, Jiang Li, shouted like thunder. As soon as he finished speaking, the few of them attacked at the same time, quickly forming a mysterious formation around the giant ape. Then, as true origin energies surged, streams of mysterious power condensed into a terrifying energy barrier. Roar! The giant ape seemed to have sensed the power of the formation. It roared again, and its huge hand that was like a giant pillar that could hold up the sky slammed down. The terrifying force immediately caused the formation to tremble violently. Puff! Under that terrifying impact, Jiang Li and the others all vomited blood. Their faces were extremely dispirited, but even so, they still defended the formation with all their might. After the giant ape unleashed that attack, it roared again and again. The 5 fingers on its palm were all broken, and scarlet blood splattered everywhere. It can't hold on much longer. Seeing this, Jiang Li's face lit up. The few of them had accidentally found a dragon scale origin tree here. What surprised them even more was that there were 3 dragon scale origin fruits on the dragon scale origin tree. The so-called dragon scale origin fruit was one of the main ingredients to refine the void-soaring dragon pill. How could they not be excited? Before they could divide up the dragon scale origin fruit, a guardian demonic beast, the Jade Fire Golden-Eyed Ape, jumped out, and the 2 sides instantly began a fight. Although the Jade Fire Golden-Eyed Ape's strength was equivalent to a human at the great perfection of the soul formation stage, it was a demonic beast with rough skin and flesh. Coupled with its extraordinary talent, it was extremely fierce. Even with the combined strength of the few of them, it was difficult to take it down in a short time. Hearing Jiang Li's angry roar, the others also attacked with all their strength. However, at that moment, they felt at the same time that the restriction they had set up to stop the many cultivators outside had been broken. Moreover, it was broken by someone at the same time. Oh no! The expressions of Jiang Li and the others instantly changed. Someone broke in. Bastard! The true disciple of the Panwu celestial sect was infuriated. Who the hell dares to ignore our orders and break the restriction by force? In order to deal with the Jade Fire Golden-Eyed Ape, the few of them had used all their means. How could they let someone else enjoy the fruits of their labor? Everyone, let's kill this person first. Jiang Li's face was also filled with murderous intent. Boom! In the next moment, the entire void where the heavenly stream was located exploded violently. They saw a young man in green robes walking in the air with his hands behind his back. Wherever he passed, both the array and the restriction crumbled. His demeanor was as if a god had descended. When they saw the person's face clearly, Jiang Li and the heavenly Jade Holy Maiden, who were previously filled with murderous intent, were stunned. Their eyes were filled with extreme horror, as if they had seen a terrifying existence. It's him, Mad Southern Yi. They cannot be more familiar with this name. That day outside Tianyuan City, this person had shocked everyone and killed the young master of the Panwu celestial sect, Hongya. He had even snatched the void soaring dragon pill from them. Whether it was Jiang Li or the heavenly jade holy maiden, although they had left alive, they were glad after the incident. Ever since that day, the name Mad Southern Yi had almost become a shadow in their hearts. However, they did not expect to see Yi Chen again. End of this chapter. Chapter 1538. Yi Chen stood quietly in the air with his hands behind his back. He lifted his head and looked at everyone. He frowned slightly when he saw Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy lady. In the end, his gaze landed on the giant ape and the stone wall of the heavenly stream. There was a small sapling growing out of the crack in the stone. The sapling was only as thick as a thumb, but it had roots that were like a horned dragon that were deeply rooted in the crack in the stone. At the top of the sapling, there were 3 fruits hanging. They were only the size of a baby's fist, and they were completely purplish gold in color. Jade fire, golden-eyed ape, and dragon scale, origin fruit. Yi Chen's eyes flashed, and he was subsequently surprised. I didn't expect this to grow here. No wonder the jade fire golden-eyed ape was born. Just as he was thinking, a figure soared into the sky from below, revealing a young man in a purplish gold robe. The young man's eyes shone with lightning as he stared at Yi Chen and said coldly, "Who are you? How dare you barge into the restriction that we set up?" If there were outsiders present, they would definitely realize that this person was the new young master of the Panwu immortal sect, Su Mingqi. The Panwu immortal sect had 10 true disciples. Hongyu was originally ranked first, and Su Mingqi was ranked second. However, with the death of the previous young master, Hongya, Su Mingqi was naturally promoted to the new young master. Yi Chen did not answer his question. He released his divine consciousness immediately in an attempt to sense the surroundings of the heavenly stream. Little did he know that his attitude had angered Su Mingqi. "You're courting death." Su Mingqi's eyes turned cold, and his killing intent surged. As the young master of the Panwu immortal sect, Su Mingqi had always been criticized in the sect. The disciples in the sect even compared him to Hongya. Even in the outside world, outsiders looked at him strangely, as if he was not worthy of being the young master of the Panwu immortal sect. Because of that, he had been holding it in. Now that he was being betrothed to a nobody like Yi Chen, how could he not be furious? Boom! In an instant, he pressed his palm down fiercely, and a dazzling golden light burst forth, carrying with it a terrifying force as it fiercely attacked. However, the terrifying power disappeared into thin air when it landed on Yi Chen. It was as if it did not harm Yi Chen at all. At that moment, Su Mingqi's pupils constricted. That was the true martial qi that he cultivated, which was extracted from the extreme metal qi. Even a trace of it was enough to kill a late divine transformation cultivator. However, it did not work on Yi Chen. His vigilance skyrocketed as he thought of this, and he secretly sent a message through his divine sense. "Brother Jiang Li, what are you waiting for? Attack together and kill this person." Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden acted as if they did not hear his voice transmission. They did not move at all. Instead, they looked at the former as if they were looking at a dead man. "Brother Su, I'll help you kill this person." Only the divine prince of the Taichu Taoist ground let out a long roar. He turned into a dazzling rainbow and stepped into the sky, as if he wanted to help Su Mingqi. "Ant-like thing, don't overestimate yourself." Yi Chen's eyes gleamed, and he attacked immediately. A giant golden palm, no more than 200 feet in size, condensed in his hand, then slammed towards Su Mingqi at lightning speed. One palm, just one palm. The new young master of the Panwu immortal sect had just let out a cry of surprise when he was slapped into a bloody mist before he could react. "Brother Su." At the same time, the divine prince of the Taichu Taoist ground who was charging at Yi Chen suddenly froze. Then, he stopped in the air less than 30 meters away from Yi Chen. Shock filled the depths of his eyes. Su Mingqi's strength was on par with his, but the former was killed by Yi Chen with a single palm. If it were him, how good would his fate be? Suddenly, He seemed to have thought of something and turned around to look behind him. He saw Jiang Li and the heavenly jade, holy maiden, standing quietly on the spot, as if they had been immobilized. They did not dare to move at all. Chills, endless chills, surged into his heart. Yichen glanced at him coldly. "I heard you want to kill me." Boom. It was just 4 words, but they exploded in the Taichu Taoist ground's divine prince's mind like thunder, causing him to be horrified. "Fellow, it's a misunderstanding, is that so? Then it's a misunderstanding that I killed you." Yichen placed one hand behind his back and flicked his finger with the other. Bang! The divine prince of the Taichu Taoist ground could not dodge in time. His entire body exploded, and his soul and body turned into dust at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths of time, 2 divine princes from the major sects had died in his hands. They could not resist at all. Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden, who were standing quietly below, gasped at the same time. They were extremely glad that they did not attack Yichun because they had the advantage of numbers. It was not just the 2 of them. Even the jade fire golden-eyed ape was crawling on the ground, its enormous body trembling. Yichun waved his sleeve immediately and put the dragon scale origin fruit on the stone wall into his pouch a few seconds later. After doing all that, he looked at Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden again before disappearing on the spot. Only then did the jade fire golden-eyed ape muster its courage to escape into the void. Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden heaved a sigh of relief, as if they had been pardoned after confirming that Yichun had left. The 2 of them collapsed to the ground and realized that their backs were drenched in cold sweat. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Not long after, many figures finally shot over. When they saw the scene clearly, someone could not help but ask, "Divine Prince Jiang Li, did you take the dragon scale origin fruit here?" Divine Prince Jiang Li, as the saying goes, treasures are rare, and everyone who sees them has a share. Even if you're divine princes from the major sects, you can't monopolize it, right? Many people looked at Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden with green eyes. Monopolize it? Jiang Li's face twitched a few times, and he laughed out of extreme anger. "You bunch of ants! Why did you appear when I was the most upset?" The aura on his body instantly bloomed, and he pounced into the crowd like a peerless god of death. He killed everyone he saw, causing countless screams. Boom! At this moment, several figures descended from the distant sky. The leader said in a deep voice, "Brother Jiang Li, why did you lose your composure?" It was Luo Xiao, Fong Chengwu, and the others. "So it's Brother Luo." Jiang Li retracted his killing intent and looked at the respectful gazes of the people around him. He simply told them everything that had happened. "What? Mad Southern Yi, who disappeared for a long time, has appeared again? He even entered the desolate god's tomb and killed the divine princes of the Panwu, celestial sect, and the Taichu dojo? Isn't this person wanted by the 5 sacred grounds? How dare he appear under our noses? What's there to be afraid of? Don't forget, this is the desolate god's tomb. Void refinement stage patriarchs can't enter." As soon as he finished speaking, countless gasps instantly arose in the surroundings, and even Luo Xiao and the others were no exception. Luo Xiao took a deep breath and looked at Jiang Li with a serious expression. "Brother Jiang Li, is what you said true?" Jiang Li sneered and said, "Do you think that with my strength and the heavenly jade holy maiden strength, we can kill Su Mingqi and Su Mingwu so easily? Brother Luo, fellow cultivators, I can prove that what Brother Jiang Li said is true. The heavenly jade holy maiden said." Jiang Li sighed softly. "With Mad Southern Yi in the desolate god's tomb, I'm afraid only Huang Fu you can match him. Brother Jiang Li, it's not that I want to pour cold water on you." Luo Xiao's eyes flickered as he said, "How do you know that Mad Southern Yi will become enemies with Huang Fu Yu? What if the 2 of them join forces?" As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent. Luo Xiao smiled to himself and said, "I have a suggestion. Why don't we form an alliance and join forces in the desolate god's tomb? At that time, no matter if we encounter Huang Fu Yu or Mad Southern Yi, we won't be in such a passive position." "Alliance? Jiangli and the heavenly jade holy maiden looked at each other. Then, the former seemed to have realized something and said, "All right, let's form an alliance." Upon seeing this, Luo Xiao immediately said, "Brother Jiangli, I believe you all know that my martial uncle was killed by an external helper with the surname Yi hired by the Heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to take revenge." He paused for a moment and looked at Jiang Li and the others with a burning gaze. "Therefore, I hope that Brother Jiang Li and the others can help me kill this person." Jiang Li frowned slightly and said, "I've heard about this. With Brother Luo's ability, it shouldn't be difficult for you to kill this person with the surname Yi, right? Why do you need us to do it?" He did not want to be used. "Brother Jiang, you might not know." Luo Xiao immediately told him about Yi Chun chatting happily with Huang Fuyu at the entrance of the Desolate God's tomb. Hearing this, Jiang Li's pupils constricted slightly, and then he said, "Forget it. I'll join forces with you and kill this person first. I'll join too." The heavenly jade, holy maiden chuckled. They knew very well that if Huang Fuyu was powerful and someone else formed an alliance with him, they would really not be able to obtain anything in the Desolate God's tomb. Especially Jiang Li, he thought to himself, both of them have the surname Yi. In this world, only mad Southern Yi can't be offended. I don't believe that other people with the surname Yi are so powerful. P.S. It's another year of college entrance examination. I wish my book friends the best results, and all of you can be admitted to key universities such as 985 and 211, changing your fate for the next few decades. Chapter 1539. In the dark ruins forbidden area, demonic qi overflowed into the sky. It was as if extreme darkness had descended into the world, wanting to turn the entire world into purgatory. Within the endless demonic qi, there were many demonic creatures venting and roaring, as if they carried all the hatred and scenery in the world. This was the demonic earth, a forbidden area for life. At the center of the demonic earth stood a divine hall. The divine hall was grand and imposing, and divine light shot into the sky. It was majestic, as if a god was coldly looking at the purgatory-like demonic earth. At this moment, within the divine hall, a giant ape covered in jade-green flames was crawling on the ground. It seemed to have been suppressed by its bloodline and was trembling. In front of it, there was a mysterious creature standing proudly. "Are you saying that they still found a flaw in the seal of the Desolate God's tomb?" This creature looked like an ape and spoke in the human tongue. Its entire body was covered in golden fur that flickered with light. Although its body was not tall, only 5 feet tall, it gave off a disdainful aura as it stood there, as if it could grab the stars and the moon. If one looked closely, they would discover that there was a golden toad lying on its shoulder. The toad's brows were filled with eagerness, as if it was unwilling to be left out. Ancestor. The jade-fire, golden-eyed ape that was crawling on the ground nodded repeatedly. It immediately told him everything it had seen and heard in the Desolate God's tomb, not daring to hide anything. These idiots! The mysterious creature's body suddenly blossomed with golden light, and a fierce aura surged out from its body. Back then, the Great Desolation Old Man charged into the forbidden area to challenge Boss. Although the former risked his life to escape, he was definitely infected by the demonic earth. These idiots actually coveted his inheritance. From the looks of it, the Desolate God's tomb has probably already been invaded by demonic qi. If these idiots forcefully open the seal, they will only release the source of all evil. At that time, the entire dark ruins will be enveloped by the demonic earth. At this point, the mysterious creature let out a low roar. The golden fur on its body stood on end, and its eyes shot out divine flames, as if it wanted to pierce through space. Sensing such power, the jade-fire golden-eyed ape that was crawling on the ground trembled even more violently, as if it would collapse at any time. At the crucial moment, the golden toad on the mysterious living being's shoulder said, "Second brother, if I'm not wrong, Old Man Great Desolation must have been infected by the demonic soil. These people are going to be unlucky." "Hee hee, This young master is looking forward to the scene of a demonic corpse suddenly jumping out of Old Man Great Desolation's coffin. It grinned happily and wished for the world to be in chaos. Then, it seemed to have thought of something. Unfortunately, the Yi fellow is also inside. I hope he can escape this calamity. I'm more concerned about Huang Fuyu. The mysterious being's eyes flickered, and it said indifferently, Boss once said that this child's bloodline is the closest to great Emperor Xuanyuan's, and it is very likely that he will be acknowledged by the Xianyuan sword. Before Boss went into seclusion, he told us to take good care of him. Huang Fuyu? The golden toad pursed its lips and said nonchalantly, I don't like that brat. I like that guy with the surname Yi. Before it could finish, it felt the entire divine hall suddenly shake, as if the sky was about to collapse. The demonic soil is in turmoil again. The mysterious being's expression changed slightly. It then pierced through space and rushed out of the divine hall. It stood proudly in the sky above the endless demonic aura, and its eyes surged with divine fire as it stared at the demonic soil. There was the faint roar of a peerless, ferocious creature, and there was also a saber gleam that seemed to be able to split the sky and earth. The saber gleam was extremely bright, so bright that it was blinding. It's that saber again. The golden toad's expression was grim as it spoke. Over the past few days, this saber has killed many terrifying existences in the demonic soil. It's all thanks to it. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for the two of us to withstand it. What exactly is that saber? It can even make the Xianyuan sword hum uncontrollably. The mysterious being's eyes were like two scorching suns. It then said, Third brother, stay here and guard the Emperor's tomb. I'll go to the wilderness god's tomb and stop all of this. Don't. Who am I going to talk to if you leave? The golden toad was instantly displeased. However, before it could finish speaking, a gaze that resembled a river of blood shot over. It was so frightened that it immediately swallowed the second half of its sentence. The mysterious being retracted its gaze and was about to hide in the demonic aura. However, at that moment, a figure slowly walked out from the endless black fog. It was a young man in a green robe. The young man held a book in his hand, and his expression was calm. Like a weak scholar, he ignored the demonic aura's invasion. It's you again. The mysterious being immediately stopped, and its gaze was cold. At the same time, countless golden lumps appeared all over the golden toad's body, as if it felt extremely threatened. Second brother, hurry, hurry and call the boss out. Don't panic. The young man smiled and said, I have no ill intentions this time. I just want you two to stay in the Emperor's tomb. You want to stop me from going to the wilderness god's tomb? The mysterious being instantly saw through the former's intention. What's your goal? Do you want to see the demonic soil corrode everything and destroy your only living space? Of course not. The young man's expression was calm as he said, I just want to verify a fact. Is that person's eyesight better or mine is? After saying that, he glanced at the Emperor's tomb. Do you want to sit back and watch the battle between that person surnamed Yi and Huang Fuyu? The mysterious being's eyes flickered. Aren't you overestimating that person surnamed Yi? Huang Fuyu is a member of the 8 Xianyuan races. He has the Emperor's bloodline, so he's most likely to inherit the Xianyuan sword and the Emperor's inheritance. Xianyuan sword? The young man smiled faintly and looked at the endless demonic aura calmly. Is it as powerful as that saber? At the same time, in the southeast corner of the wilderness god's tomb, in the silent forest, a group of about 10 people was walking silently. The leader was a silver-haired young man. The silver-haired young man walked at a moderate pace. Although his calm and composed aura was extremely otherworldly, it caused many people behind him to secretly complain. Ever since they entered the wilderness god's tomb, they had walked hundreds of kilometers, and that person did not say where they were going. As if sensing their doubts, the silver-haired young man suddenly stopped and said calmly, If you want to leave, you can leave on your own. There's no need to follow me anymore. Many people were secretly delighted when they heard that. Someone could not help but ask, because of the former's dignity, Brother Yu, what about you? I have a place to go, the silver-haired young man said calmly. Seeing that he was unwilling to say more, the crowd immediately left. Only a woman remained. She was in her early 20s and was extremely beautiful. There was a hint of hidden love in her eyes as she looked at the silver-haired young man. At that moment, a figure suddenly flew over from afar. End of this chapter. Chapter 1540. The silver-haired young man stretched out his hand and waved it. It then turned into a jade slip in his hand. Mad Southern Yi is suspected to have appeared in the desolate god's tomb. He killed the two god's sons of the Panwu immortal sect in the Taichu dojo in the southwest corner of the desolate god's tomb. Everyone, be careful. The silver-haired young man calmly read the information on the jade slip. The four holy lands have formed an alliance to deal with me, Huang Fuyu. They have also set up an inescapable trap to kill the external help Fong Ziyue invited. Fong Ziyue? Someone with the surname Yi? Huang Fuyu's eyes flickered as he muttered. When the woman beside him heard these words, she immediately said, Brother Yu, Fong Ziyue is the person behind the person we talked to at the entrance of the desolate god's tomb. It's her? Hearing this, Huang Fuyu's brows furrowed. Then, as if he had thought of something, a smile appeared on his face. So you're worried that that person will form an alliance with me. So you plan to deal with that person first? However, I'm afraid you've chosen the wrong opponent. I wish you all good luck. He smiled slightly, and the jade slip in his hand immediately burned without any fire. Near the northwest of the desolate god's tomb, many figures flickered on a steep mountain. Then, they spread out in an orderly manner and hid in the void. Vaguely, there seemed to be a large formation set up in the surroundings, enveloping the entire mountain. The figures from before had hidden themselves extremely well, and their auras had been restrained to the minimum. If there were outsiders present, they would definitely discover that these figures were all at the peak of the soul formation stage. At that moment, the sky gradually darkened, as if night was about to fall. A bone-piercing cold wind wreaked havoc in the entire mountain. Be careful. Our goal this time is only the external help that Fong Ziyue invited. Don't harm Fong Ziyue at all. In the silent void, a cold voice rang out. Otherwise, I won't be responsible for causing trouble. Don't worry, fellow Luo, we know what to do. Hearing this, many figures hidden in the void immediately nodded. The void fell into dead silence once again. Sigh. After an unknown period of time, two streams of light shot over from the distant horizon. It was Fong Ziyue and the heavenly jade Holy Land's disciple, Yin Shi. She held a spirit stone in her hand. As she replenished her spirit power, she asked, Big Sister Ziyue, where are we going? Didn't Senior Yi tell us to wait for him? To the northwest. Fong Ziyue stood on a cloud shuttle with fluttering ribbons. She looked like a celestial maiden that had descended to the mortal world. I've already left a message for Senior Yi. I believe that if he sees it, he will head over to meet up with us. The thing she entered the desolate god's tomb to find was in the northwest corner of the desolate god's tomb. How could she sit back and watch as time passed? How could she sit back and watch as Fong Cheng, Wu Cheng, and the other branches of the heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce beat her to it? Oh, Yin Shi made an O sound, then looked at Yin Shi again and again, and said intentionally or unintentionally, Sister Dua, who exactly is this Senior Yi? How is he so powerful? That Taoist Feng Yang is at the great perfection of deity transformation, but he was unable to resist Senior Yi. Yi Chen's technique had truly shocked her. If not for the iron rule that forbade void refinement cultivators from entering the desolate god's tomb, she would even suspect that Yi Chen was a void refinement old monster. Fong Ziyue's lips moved slightly. Just when she was about to speak, her beautiful eyes could not help but look down at the huge mountain below. Although the huge mountain below was extremely quiet, for some reason, she felt a faint sense of danger. She was not a greenhorn. Over time, she had developed an extremely cautious intuition, and this intuition had saved her countless times. Thinking to this point, she paused and lowered her head to look down again. She was extremely cautious and did not dare to go down. Seeing that she had suddenly stopped, Yin Shi stopped as well. She asked in confusion, Big Sister Ziyue, what's wrong? At that moment, The sense of danger in Fong Ziyue's heart increased again. She immediately activated the cloud shuttle and said, "Oh no, there's danger. Attack." As soon as she finished speaking, a cold voice suddenly rang out in the silent space. Boom, boom. In the next moment, countless pillars of light shot into the sky and turned into a light curtain, sealing the space where Fong Ziyue and Yunxi were. Bang! Fong Ziyue slammed the light curtain heavily. Not only did she fail to shake the light curtain, but she even staggered from the impact and almost fell. On the other hand, Yunxi had long since been shocked by this sudden scene. I wonder which fellow Taoists are making things difficult for us. Fong Ziyue took a deep breath in and suppressed the panic in her. She looked at the sky and said, "I'm Fong Ziyue from the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce's Purple Faction. I wonder which fellow Taoists are making things difficult for us." "Sister Ziyue, calm down." Subsequently, a voice that seemed to be laughing came from the void. Then, over 10 figures appeared before Fong Ziyue like ghosts. The person who laughed was Fong Chengwu. Beside him stood Luo Xiao, Jiang Li, the Heavenly Jade Holy Lady, and the rest. The Heavenly Jade Holy Lady glanced at Yun, she who was stunned, and said coldly, "Yin Shi, what are you waiting for?" "Fong Chengwu, so it's you guys." When Fong Zhe saw their faces clearly, the huge boulder in her heart was relieved. However, she still said coldly, "What? Don't tell me you don't have confidence in this assessment. So you're trying to kill me in the desolate god's tomb?" If someone else had trapped her, she might have been worried about her life. However, it was different if it was Fong Chengwu. Both of them were members of the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce. They did not dare to violate the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce's ban on self-harm. At this point, she looked coldly at Luo Xiao, Jiang Li, and the rest. Her expression changed slightly. "You guys really have a big lineup. Sister Ziyue, you're wrong." Fong Chengwu looked at her with a faint smile. "You and I are both members of the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce. Why would I kill you? I just want to play a game with you." "A game?" Fong Ziyue smiled coldly. "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Fong Chengwu, you must be trying to use me to deal with someone by making such a big fuss." As soon as she finished speaking, a thought suddenly flashed in her mind. She then looked at Fong Chengwu. "So you want to use me to deal with Senior Yi?" Clap, clap, clap. As a round of applause rang out, Luo Xiao clapped while looking at her and said, "Miss Fong is really smart. You actually figured out our purpose so quickly." As his voice fell, Fong Ziyue's face suddenly turned extremely pale. She did not expect that what she was worried about from the beginning would happen. Moreover, Luo Xiao had actually joined forces with the divine son of the great Jiang divine dynasty, the Heavenly Jade Holy Lady, and many other forces to gather here. End of this chapter. Chapter 1541. In the depths of the desolate god's tomb, in the dangerous forest. Boom! As blood splattered, the void was torn apart. A figure bathed in golden light killed a giant python that was over 60 meters long with a single palm strike. That figure was Yichun. Yichun glanced at the lightning python on the ground. After removing its beast core and gallbladder, he looked around. His eyes flickered. "I've been searching for almost 2 hours, but I still haven't found Fong Zhe." After he returned with the dragon scale origin fruit, he received a message from Fong Ziyue's divine consciousness. He was told to look for her in the northwest corner of the desolate god's tomb. However, Yichun walked through the entire northwest corner, but he did not find Fong Ziyue. Not only that, but many people who entered the desolate god's tomb had mysteriously disappeared. With Fong Ziyue's ability and identity, no one will target her unless it's absolutely necessary. Yichun headed in another direction immediately as he thought to this point. After he left, there were several figures gathered at a place not far away from where he had stayed previously. They were all dressed in the same attire, and it was clear that they were from the same faction. Why does that person look familiar? A middle-aged man among them looked at Yichun's retreating figure and said while deep in thought, "Why do I feel like I've seen him somewhere before?" "Senior brother, your old habit of looking at everyone familiar is happening again." Beside the middle-aged man, a young man consumed a medicinal pill. As he replenished his vitality, he complained, It said that there are countless treasures in the desolate god's tomb, but we've been here for almost 4 hours. We haven't even seen bird poop, let alone cow hair. What do you know? The middle-aged man glared at him and said, "Have you forgotten what Luo Xiao, godson of great Jiang Li, and the rest said? Someone stole the treasure they wanted, so they offered a reward of 10 million spirit stones for us to help find that person. That's 10 million spirit stones. If we get it, we'll still have leftovers after splitting it evenly." At this point, the middle-aged man was extremely envious. "But we have to be capable to find that person," the young man from before mumbled. "Don't forget that the person who could snatch the treasure from the hands of Jiang Li and the others isn't someone we can imagine. Moreover, didn't Jiang Li and the others capture Miss Fang Ziyue to force that person to appear?" Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly discovered that the temperature in this space had suddenly dropped, and his senior brother was staring at something behind him with widened eyes. What happened? The young man was stunned at first, and then he seemed to realize something. He immediately turned around and saw a young man in black standing quietly behind him. Who are you?" The young man was shocked at first. Then, just as he was about to make a move, he realized that the young man's speed was even faster than his. The young man's hand reached out and grabbed the young man's neck, lifting him in midair. Yichen stared at him coldly and said calmly, "Did you just say that Jiang Li and the rest captured Fang Ziyue?" At that moment, everyone, including the middle-aged man, finally snapped back to their senses. They looked at Yi Chun in shock and said, "Why, you're the helper that Miss Fang hired. Don't kill me." The young man who was lifted into the air by Yi Chun was horrified. He stammered immediately, "Jiang Li and the rest did capture Miss Fang Ziyue. They've also spread the news that they want you to save her. Otherwise, they'll kill Miss Fang Ziyue." "Where is it?" Yi Chen asked. It's on a huge mountain near the northwest." Bang! Yi Chen tossed him out and disappeared from where he was in a flash. The killing intent in his eyes was dense. "Jiang Li, I've spared your life twice. You really won't die if you don't ask for it." On a huge mountain near the northwest of the desolate god's tomb. At that moment, many figures had gathered on the mountain. Many cultivators from all over had gathered there, and they looked at the few silhouettes in the air at the same time. In the air, Jiang Li, Luo Xiao, the heavenly jade saint, and the rest stood proudly. They had cold expressions on their faces, and they seemed rather impatient. On the other hand, Fang Ziyue did not move at all. It was as if someone had done something to her body. She could not move at all, but there was a trace of worry in the depths of her flickering, beautiful eyes. "It's been 2 hours, but Miss Fang's reinforcements haven't arrived yet. Could it be that they're afraid and don't dare to come?" "I think so too. After all, his opponents this time are Luo Xiao, Jiang Li, and the rest. No matter who it is, they're all outstanding talents of the younger generation. In this generation, I'm afraid only Huang Fuyu and that mad Southern Yi can suppress them, right?" Coincidentally, both of them are Chinese. All sorts of discussions could be heard in the crowd. Luo Xiao and the rest in the air acted as if they did not hear anything. Buzz! As the air trembled, Luo Xiao slowly took a step forward. His gloomy and sharp gaze sized up the crowd below. Then he looked at Jiang Li and the rest and said, "Brother Jiang Li, looks like this Yi really doesn't dare to come. This outcome is not beyond my expectations." Jiang Li's expression was calm, and he did not look disappointed at all. After all, the culprit of this matter was Luo Xiao, and he was just going through the motions. This cunning brat. Luo Xiao's gaze turned cold as he sneered. He's lucky to have escaped this calamity. However, if he thinks that he can sit back and relax, then he's gravely mistaken. I'll capture him sooner or later. After saying that, his gaze could not help but land on Fang Ziyue. He said with a spurious smile, "Ms. Fang, I don't know if I should say that you're lucky or unlucky. You're lucky that we didn't intend to kill you from the beginning. Unfortunately, the reinforcements you hired only cares about his own interests and doesn't consider your safety at all. How sad." He had evil intentions. Seeing that he could not kill Yi Chun immediately, he came up with a second plan. He wanted to sow discord between Yi Chun and Fang Ziyue. If that happened, Fang Ziyue would definitely not help Yi Chun when he encountered him again. Luo, you don't have to sow discord. However, Fang Ziyue saw through his thoughts and said with a sneer, at the end of the day, I don't have much of a relationship with Senior Yi. At most, we're just employees. It's understandable that he won't come to save me. I can only say that your wishful thinking has failed. As she spoke to this point, she seemed to be gloating. Luo Xiu frowned. Just when he was about to remove the restriction in Fang Ziyue's body, a golden rainbow that pierced through heaven and earth suddenly shot over from the distant horizon. Wherever he passed, there would be lightning and the void would explode. It was as if he had triggered the wrath of the heavens and the earth. At the same time, a cold voice shook heaven and earth. I've always kept my promises. Since I said that I'll protect you, I'll definitely protect you. End of this chapter. Chapter 1542. Senior Yi. Upon hearing this incomparably familiar voice, Fang Ziyue's pretty face was instantly stunned. A look of disbelief surged in her beautiful eyes. They're finally here? At that instant, regardless of whether it was the people on the ground or Luo Xiu, Jiang Li, and the others in the sky, all of them abruptly looked at the golden light in the sky. Under everyone's gazes, a black-haired, black-eyed young man wearing a black dragon robe flew over with his hands behind his back. The young man's eyes were bright and full of killing intent. No one dared to look him in the eye. Why is it him? After seeing the young man's face, Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden's expressions changed drastically, as if they had seen a ghost. The two of them could not be more familiar with that godlike figure. During the trip to Tianyuan City, if they had not given in time and Yi Chun was not in the mood to kill, they would have survived. Just over 2 hours ago, it was this same figure that descended from the sky and killed Su Mingqi and Su Mingqi from the Panwu Immortal Sect and Taichu Taoist grounds. He's Miss Fang's foreign aide? Jiang Li, in particular, was like a ghost. He was so shocked that he almost shouted, I sent he mad southern ye? How did he become Miss Fang's helper? He's the external help that Miss Fang invited? He's here. I didn't expect him to really come. Is this person crazy? Could it be that he doesn't know that an inescapable net has long since been laid down here, and that Luo Xiu, Jiang Li, and the others want to join forces to deal with him? The moment Yi Chen appeared, everyone was stunned. Countless gazes immediately gathered on him, and many people's eyes were filled with disbelief. As Yi Chen appeared, Luo Xiu, who was initially disappointed, revealed a look of ecstasy. Yi, I didn't expect you to really come. I have to say that I admire your courage. Senior Yi, leave quickly. After coming back to her senses, Fang Ziyue's eyes reddened. She was touched and could not help but urge, they won't kill me. Quickly leave. Don't bother about me. She did not expect Yi Chen to go there, even though he knew there was danger. He was willing to take such a huge risk to save her. How could she not be touched? Where are we going? Don't worry. Seeing that you have such courage, I will let you die a quick death. Luo Xiu laughed coldly as he suddenly crushed a jade talisman in his hand. Boom! A series of loud explosions rang out, and the void trembled endlessly. The endless power of the formation was activated at that moment, and then turned into a huge energy barrier that enveloped the entire mountain. Yi, this is what I prepared for you. Luo Xiu looked at Yi Chun with a ferocious expression. Are you satisfied? To be able to make us go through so much trouble for you. Even if you die, you will have no regrets. Have you said enough? However, Yi Chun looked at him coldly. Since you're done, go to hell. Insolence. Luo Xiu's gaze turned cold as he raised his hand and grabbed at the air. A sword that caused one's heart to palpitate with monstrous, baleful energy appeared in his hand. As soon as the sword appeared, it released extremely dense, baleful energy. It devoured all the airflow in the surrounding area, causing the temperature to drop by dozens of degrees in an instant. Obviously, this was a magic treasure that was not of a low grade. Mystic Een Sword. Someone seemed to have thought of something and immediately cried out in shock. This is Tian Xiezi's primordial spirit treasure, the Mystic Een Sword. I didn't expect Tian Xiezi to give it to Luo Xiao. Following his words, the world was in an uproar. Primordial spirit treasure. That was something exclusive to void refinement old monsters. Who would have thought that it would appear in Luo Xiao's hands now? From this, it could be seen how much Tian Xiezi doted on Luo Xiao. With this sword, who below the void refinement stage could fight Luo Xiao? Even Jiang Li and the rest would have to retreat, right? Ye go to hell. Luo Xiao laughed maniacally as he activated the Mystic Yin sword and took a step forward. The space around him instantly turned into a black storm. It was condensed from baleful energy, and it was like a black hole that wanted to devour everything. Die! Luo Xiao activated the Mystic Yin sword with all his might and slashed at Yi Chen's head ruthlessly. He wanted to kill Yi Chen with a single attack. Only then would he be able to intimidate the others. However, to his shock, Yi Chen did not dodge the sword at all. Instead, he extended his fingers and blocked the tip of the Mystic Yin sword with 2 fingers. No matter how hard he tried, he could not swing it at all. How is this possible? At that moment, Luo Xiao's eyes widened as if he had seen something unbelievable. For some reason, an ominous feeling suddenly surged in his heart. It's a good sword, but unfortunately, you're too useless. Yi Chen's eyes were like knives. He flicked his finger lightly, and it turned into a peerless saber gleam that whistled out and landed heavily on Luo Xiao's body. Ah! Luo Xiao screamed and was sent flying. Both of his arms were severed, and his voice was extremely shrill. Heaven and earth shook. At that moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Luo Xiao, who held a primordial spirit treasure, was severely injured by Yi Chen with a single attack. The most shocked person was none other than Fang Ziyue. She knew Luo Xiao's strength. He was said to be able to fight an early-stage void refinement stage cultivator. Although it was an exaggeration, it was not far from it. However, with the help of the Mystic Yin sword, he was still defeated so miserably? Impossible. This is impossible. Luo Xiao, who had stabilized his body, had both of his arms severed. Blood flowed everywhere, and his expression was extremely deranged, as if he had been provoked by something. Previously, he thought that it would be easy for him to kill a nobody like Yi Chen. He did not expect to experience such a blow. How could he accept that? In his madness, Luo Xiao's hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared, "Brother Luo, Fang Chengwu, Heavenly Jade Holy Maiden, what are you guys waiting for?" As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt 2 bone-piercing killing intent coming from behind him. He turned around abruptly and saw Jiang Li and the Heavenly Jade Holy Maiden attacking him together. The killing intent was extremely dense. Fang Chengwu, who had been watching from the side, was shocked when he saw that. "Jiang Li, are you guys crazy?" Jiang Li and Fang Chengwu were clearly the ones who had been invited by Luo Xiao, but now they had turned against him and joined forces to kill Luo Xiao. Everyone was also taken aback by this. Under everyone's gaze, a golden pagoda appeared above Jiang Li's head. Resplendent, killing intent shot straight at Luo Xiao. "Brother Luo, you almost caused the 2 of us to fall into eternal damnation. You really deserve to die." "What?" Luo Xiao roared. The Heavenly Jade Holy Maiden's red caltrip swept out like a scarlet snake sweeping through the 9 heavens. "Why? You idiot! How dare you offend mad Southern Yi? Fellow Yi? You even deceived the 2 of us to join forces with you to fight fellow Yi. Tell me, do you deserve to die?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1543. Mad Southern Yi? After the Tianxian Holy Maiden's voice reverberated in the air, the world suddenly fell into a brief dead silence. Countless people were dumbstruck. Mad Southern Yi. Fang Ziyue was stunned at first, but she quickly reacted. Her pretty face was filled with shock. Why Senior Yi is why Mad Southern Yi? At that moment, countless people in the world paled. Mad Southern Yi. Even in the depths of Insu, these 3 words were still like thunder in their ears. He was someone who destroyed the Taichu dojo alone and even fought with the heavenly venerable of Taichu's divine will. Ever since Yi Chen returned to Earth, Someone had counted the number of soul formation cultivators who had died in his hands. There was no lack of people who were at stage soul formation. However, the person standing before them was actually Mad Southerny. How could they not be horrified by this? On the other hand, Luo Xiao shuddered violently a few times. There was extreme shock in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chen again. Why, you're Mad Southerny? How is this possible? Impossible. This is impossible. He seemed to have gone mad, and his eyes were trembling. He had always treated Yi Chen as an unknown person. He had never thought that Yi Chen was the famous killing god, Mad Southern Yi, who had shocked Yin Su. If he had known that this would happen, he would not have dared to take revenge on Yi Chen even if his master and his father died, let alone his master's death. Run, I must run. At that moment, a thought flashed through his mind. Then, he retreated without hesitation, his face filled with fear. Although he was extremely confident in his abilities, he was not confident that he was Yi Chen's match. As he retreated, he spat a mouthful of blood. He activated the blood escape technique without hesitation. He turned into a blood shadow and dashed away at an unimaginable speed. The blood escape technique was extremely fast. It was actually several times faster than the speed of lightning. In the blink of an eye, he had traversed over 100 kilometers. Do you think you can escape? Yi Chen took a step forward, and ripples appeared in the air under his feet. His body disappeared into the air instantly, and he was even faster than the blood shadow. Shockingly, it was spatial shrinking. When Yi Chen appeared before the bloody shadow, he stretched his palm out almost at the same time and slapped the bloody shadow hard. When the palm landed, an earth-shattering rumble rang out, and a terrifying storm was formed in the air. Wow! Luo Xiao let out a shrill cry. The blood shadow on the surface of his body collapsed on the spot, and his expression was incomparably astonished. This escape technique of his was obtained from an ancient cultivator's abode. It was extremely profound. It could be said that even an early void refinement realm being would find it difficult to catch up to him in a short period of time by sacrificing his own blood essence. However, Mad Southern Yi actually used some kind of divine ability to catch up to him in an instant. He was so scared that his soul almost left his body. Without saying a word, he once again activated his blood escape. At this moment, his body was wrapped in a thick layer of blood mist. From afar, it looked like a red sun was falling at an extremely fast speed. However, in the next moment, Yi Chen's figure appeared in front of him again. Yi Chen's palm fell, shattering the void and landing hard on him. Rumble! Luo Xiao's entire body smashed down heavily from the sky, and he forcefully flattened a mountain. His entire body was like glass that had been shattered, and he was riddled with holes and horrifying bloodstains sprayed out from his body. Yi Chen landed quietly and looked at him coldly. Blurg! Luo Xiao spat a mouthful of blood heavily. His eyes trembled as he looked at Yi Chen. Mad Southern Yi, I didn't know it was you at first. Let me go. As long as you let me go, I swear I won't provoke you again. If it were anyone else, Yi Chen's attack earlier would have killed them long ago. Fortunately, he had a treasured armor in his body that blocked most of the power. Yi Chen said calmly, hand over your soul blood and I'll spare your life. Luo Xiao's expression changed slightly when he said that. Impossible. I, Luo Xiao, was born extraordinary. How can I let someone else control my life? He knew very well that once he handed over his soul blood, it would mean that he was Yi Chen's slave from now on. Yi Chen could take his life in an instant. Is that so? Yi Chen used his finger as a sword. Endless sword gleams surged out immediately, as if they had transformed into a peerless, immortal sword that slashed at Luo Xiao. At that moment, Luo Xiao's eyes were filled with shock. It was the first time he had sensed the aura of death at such a close distance. He could not help but say immediately, I'm willing to submit. I'm willing to submit. As soon as he finished speaking, the terrifying killing intent completely vanished, and the terrifying might from before also vanished into thin air. Congratulations on keeping your life. Yi Chen said coldly, hand over your soul blood. Luo Xiao collapsed to the ground, his entire body drenched in cold sweat. He forced a smile and said, to be honest, I've already handed my soul blood to my master. Yi Chen's eyes flickered as if he did not believe him. Subsequently, he pointed a finger at the spot between Luo Xiu's brows. His divine consciousness poured in like a flood. A moment later, he could not help but look at Luo Xiu again and say, "Your master controls your soul blood? My master doesn't trust anyone." Luo Xiu smiled bitterly and said, "He took in many disciples before me, but I was the only one who survived in the end. Moreover, he took away my soul blood. His goal was none other than to make me loyal to him. Don't worry." Yi Chen suddenly smiled. "I have a technique that allows me to control you without taking your soul blood. You just have to open your mind and don't resist. If you have any evil thoughts, your soul will be destroyed in an instant, and you'll die." With that, he formed a strange seal and landed it between Luo Xiu's brows. It faintly formed a seal that restricted one's soul. Almost at that moment, Luo Xiu felt as if his life no longer belonged to him. It was as if Yi Chen could kill him with a single thought. Thinking to this point, he was even more shocked. He did not dare to have any unrealistic thoughts. After controlling him, Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back. He looked around and said, "Now, tell me your real purpose for coming to the desolate god's tomb." Based on his understanding of his person, he did not seem to be purely helping Fang Chengwu win. He definitely had an ulterior motive. Luo Xiu did not dare hide anything and said in a deep voice, "I came to the desolate god's tomb to search for the great emperor's seal under my master's orders." Yi Chen frowned. "The great emperor's seal?" As if sensing his confusion, Luo Xiu hurriedly explained, "When the great desolation old man charged into the forbidden area back then, he actually stole an extremely important item from the emperor's tomb. This item was left behind by the great Emperor Xianyuan before he stepped onto the heavenly path, together with the Xianyuan sword. It's known as the great Emperor Xuanyuan's keepsake. Once you obtain these two items, you'll be able to control the entire Yin ruins." Chapter 1544. So this token is the great emperor's seal? Yi Chen's eyes flickered when he heard that. Clearly, he did not expect the desolate god's tomb to hide such secrets. At the same time, he did not expect the great Emperor Xianyuan to leave behind so many tricks before he stepped onto the heavenly path. "That's right," Luo Xiu said respectfully. "The purpose of the Heavenly Yuan Trading Association's trip is also for the great emperor's seal. They naively think that only they know this secret." At this point, he seemed to have thought of something and said, "Master, you might not know this, but the emperor's tomb in the forbidden area is about to open. There's the great emperor's divine weapon, the Xianyuan sword. Rumor has it that as long as one obtains the great emperor's seal, they will have a chance of obtaining the Xianyuan sword's acknowledgement. From the looks of it, the Heavenly Yuan Trading Association and the other forces must have the same goal. They want to obtain the great emperor's seal and the Xianyuan sword and control the great emperor Xuanyuan's plan back then." Yi Chen's eyes flickered. "If that's the case, I'll be able to touch the suppressed immortal soul and immortal body at a close distance." Thinking to this point, he could not help but glance at Luo Xiu. "Go. Pretend to escape from me and hide in the Yin ruins for now. Help me at the crucial moment." That was the reason why he kept Luo Xiu alive. This person's talent was not bad. Coupled with the fact that he had a grudge with Tian Xiezi, he could be considered a chess piece. All right, Luo Xiu immediately understood Yi Chen's intention. Without any hesitation, he hammered his chest and charged into the sky with the blood escape again. After watching him leave, Yi Chen took a good look at his surroundings. He wiped away all traces and rushed to where the giant mountain was. On the mountain, everyone raised their heads in anticipation. They stared in the direction where Yi Chen and Luo Xiu had left. The discussions were endless. In the air, Fang Ziyue, Jiang Li, and the rest had complicated expressions. They did not say a word. Clearly, they had yet to recover from a shock. Only Fang Chengwu's heart was in turmoil, worrying about gains and losses. He was the one who invited Luo Xiu. At the same time, he was involved in the operation against Yi Chen. Now that Yi Chen's identity was exposed, he could not help but worry if the former would vent his anger on him. A moment later, Fang Ziyue glanced at Jiang Li and the rest, Shinzi Jiang, how did you know Senior Ye's identity? She was extremely puzzled. Since Jiang Li and the rest knew Yi Chen's identity, why did they promise Luo Xiao to capture him and force him to come here? No matter how one looked at it, it was a little contradictory. Jiang Li forced a smile when he met her gaze. Miss Fong, you might not know this, but before this, we didn't know that the external help you've invited is Mad Southern Yi. After saying that, he immediately told them about the void-soaring dragon pill in Tianyuan City. After hearing that, Fong Ziyue's beautiful eyes widened. So that rising void dragon pill was snatched away by Senior Yi, and Hanyu was also killed by Senior Yi. Looks like Senior Yi is indeed Mad Southern Yi. Fong Ziyue took a deep breath and said slowly, "Actually, I should have guessed it. Both of them have the surname Yi, and their combat strength is extremely terrifying. I wonder if Luo Xiao managed to escape." Jiang Li glanced at the horizon and said with a worried expression, "If we let him escape, then wouldn't we become fellow Taoist Ye's targets to vent his anger on?" After hearing that, the Tianxian Saintess and Fong Chengwu's expressions changed drastically. Fong Chengwu rolled his eyes, then walked to Fong Ziyue's side and said with a smile, "Sister Ziyue, what happened before was my fault. I hope you won't take it to heart." "What? I didn't think there would be a time when cousin would give in." Fong Ziyue sneered. "Weren't you quite capable before? You looked down on everyone because you had Luo Xiao. Now you're afraid?" Fong Chengwu's smile froze. He was secretly furious, but he still forced a smile and said, "I admit that I was in the wrong before, but that was also because I was bewitched by Luo Xiao. I hope Sister Ziyue can plead for me with fellow Taoist Yi." After saying that, he gritted his teeth and said, "As long as Sister Ziyue can plead for me, the Orange faction is willing to give up on this trip to the Baron God's tomb and help you at the same time." Fong Ziyue's expression immediately changed when she heard that. Clearly, she did not expect him to be willing to make such a huge compromise. She secretly sneered, but she still said calmly, "You think too highly of me. If Senior Yi really wants to make things difficult for you, it's useless no matter what I say. I believe Sister Ziyue can do it." Fong Chengwu smiled awkwardly, but a fierce look flashed across his eyes. Soon, a golden beam shot over and revealed Yi Chen's face. However, this time, no one dared to speak. Countless gazes looked at him with fear as if they were looking up at a god. Jiang Li and the rest's hearts sank when they saw that Yi Chen had returned alone. Fong Ziyue went up to him and said, "Senior Yi, Luo Xiao." Yi Chen said calmly, "This person's escape technique is extremely shocking. He escaped." As soon as that was said, countless uproars broke out, and the faces of Jiang Li and the rest suddenly turned pale. Plop! Following two loud thuds, Jiang Li knelt heavily before Yi Chen and said bitterly, "Fellow Yi, I didn't know that you were the person I was going to deal with. Please forgive me. Fellow Yi, if we knew it was you, we wouldn't have dared to agree to Luo Xiao's invitation even if we had 10 guts. After what happened last time, the heavenly jade holy lady had become obedient." Yi Chen glanced at the two of them coldly. In the end, his gaze landed on Fong Chengwu. His sharp gaze caused the latter to shiver immediately. Sensing his unfriendly gaze, Fong Chengwu's lips trembled as he said, "Be fellow Yi, this is a misunderstanding." He knew very well that if he dared to say no today, it was very likely that he would be beheaded here. After all, the person before him had killed many god sons of holy lands. "Senior Yi, please do me a favor." Fong Ziyue pursed her red lips slightly, wanting to plead for Fong Chengwu. Bleck! Suddenly, she felt a flash before her eyes, as if a resplendent saber gleam had flashed before her. Then, Fong Chengwu's eyes widened. He covered his neck with his hand and looked at Yi Chen in disbelief. "Why you plop?" Before he could finish speaking, his head was separated from his body. Even though he was dead, his eyes were still wide open, as if he had died with a grievance. He did not expect Yi Chen to really dare to kill him. On the other hand, Yi Chen's slash had destroyed his soul directly. It could be said that his soul had been destroyed. At that moment, the world fell into dead silence. Countless people watched this scene in disbelief. The most shocked were Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy lady. Fang Ziyue's body froze as if she was scared silly. One had to know that Fang Chengwu was a member of the Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce. Yichen looked at Fang Ziyue calmly. What did you say just now? Chapter 1545. In an instant, the entire sky darkened. 5 black shadows with scarlet blood energy and black energy whizzed out and wrapped around Yichen. Ghostly wails and wolf howls could be heard. If one took a closer look, they would realize that they were 5 black ghosts that were more than 30 meters tall. They had green faces and fangs, and their eyes were blood red. They looked extremely ferocious. The 5 black ghosts were carrying a huge mountain. The mountain seemed to be 300 meters tall. As they threw it violently, it fell from the sky and smashed at Yichen. Before the huge mountain landed, the ground was already shaking violently. There was a deafening shattering sound in the air. Fang Ziyue was so shocked that she almost screamed. The old man from the Shadow Demon sect smirked when he saw that. He had refined the 5 ghosts moving mountain technique for a long time and rarely showed it to others. However, he could not care less for this void refinement puppet today. A ferocious gleam flashed through his eyes as he thought to this point. It was as if he could see Yichen being crushed into meat paste. However, Yichen merely slapped at the huge mountain above him casually. Rumble. Then, an earth-shattering rumble was heard. In front of everyone's eyes, the huge mountain that seemed to be hundreds of meters high suddenly exploded, turning into invisible powder accompanied by a terrifying energy. At that moment, the old man's body suddenly stiffened. His eyes widened as he looked at Yichen in disbelief. Whoosh! Before he could react, purple gold lightning arcs suddenly shot out from Yichen's palm. Subsequently, they landed on the 5 black ghosts. Bang, 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 as a heart-wrenching scream rang out. The 5 black ghosts were completely annihilated by the purple gold lightning arcs. They vanished completely. Divine devil bane lightning? The old man from the Shadow Demon sect was extremely shocked. Lightning was an object of extreme yang, and it was the bane of all Yin and evil. The divine devil bane lightning was even more powerful, and all Yin and evil beings were rendered completely powerless before it. Never had he thought that Yichen would cultivate the divine devil bane lightning. At that moment, he suddenly sensed a strange sound above his head. He abruptly raised his head, and what he saw was a giant palm that covered the sky. Bang! The gigantic palm fell on the body of the evil demon sect's old man. He didn't even get the chance to let out a blood-curdling scream. He was smashed into a pile of meat on the spot. Dead silence. The scene was as silent as death. Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at Yichen in fear. They were horrified. The strength of the old man of the evil demon sect could be considered as one of the strongest among them. However, he had died in the hands of this man so easily. Isn't that method a little too shocking? Go! Yichen glanced at Fang Ziyue calmly. The latter snapped back to her senses and caught up to him immediately. After watching the two of them leave, the crowd that remained in the same place came to their senses. Then, a series of gasps broke out. A cultivator said with a pale face, "Who is this person? How come we've never heard of it before? Such ability is comparable to that of Huang Fuyu, right? Could it be that the void training stage used some kind of technique to enter the desolate god's tomb?" An hour later, Yichen led Fang Ziyue all the way to a black building complex. The buildings seemed to be black altars. At that moment, the altar was already filled with countless figures. There were also various entrances around it. Clearly, they had walked out from other tunnels. Huang Fuyu. Yichen's gaze landed on a silver-haired figure in the crowd. That figure was surrounded by the stars. He was like a god that had descended to the mortal world. He had an extraordinary bearing. As if sensing his gaze, Huang Fuyu lifted his eyes subconsciously. His gaze passed through the crowd and landed on Yichen. Before Yichen could speak, Huang Fuyu smiled at him first. "Brother Yi, I've been waiting for you for a long time." As his voice fell, countless gazes immediately looked at him from within the altar, and the emotions contained in those gazes were not limited to just one. The same thought flashed through most people's minds. Clearly, they were curious about Yi Chen's identity to make Huang Fuyu say that. On the other hand, most people recognized Fang Ziyue, who was next to Yi Chen, at first glance. Yi Chen's expression remained unchanged under such gazes. He led Fang Ziyue closer to the altar and said calmly, "Why are you waiting for me?" "Brother Yi." Huang Fuyu smiled lightly and said, "This is the main tomb of the great wilderness elder. However, I can't find his coffin here. Instead, there are many strange altars." Yi Chen could not help but lift his eyes to take a closer look at the altars upon hearing that. The altars were ice-cold black, as if they were made of black iron. There were many stone pillars around the altars, and there were many mysterious runes engraved on them. Above everyone's heads, there was a huge 8 trigrams pattern that contained yin and yang energy. It faintly resonated with the altar below. Chaotic yin-yang formation? Yi Chen's eyes flashed as he guessed the arrangement immediately. Before he could think too much, he heard Huang Fuyu say, "Brother Yi, we've studied it for a while and suspect that this altar is a formation. I'm afraid only by activating this formation can we see the great wilderness elder's coffin." A man in a red robe couldn't help but ask, "But what's the way to activate it?" Old Man Great Desolation is extremely cunning. Given his character, there must be a lot of killing intent hidden within. At this time, a voice suddenly came from afar. "What is this?" Everyone looked over and saw a black-robed woman standing beside an altar. She was looking curiously at a green jade bead the size of an infant's fist. The next moment, she couldn't help but reach for the green jade bead. "Don't touch it." Yi Chen and Huang Fuyu spoke in unison almost at that moment. However, the woman's hand still touched the green jade pearl in the end. The pearl shook slightly before it shattered with a cracking sound, and then a black shadow suddenly flashed out from within it. The woman was caught off guard and was struck by the black shadow. Her body exploded, and a mist of blood seemed to nourish the black shadow. In an instant, the black gas violently exploded, turning into countless black gas that filled the air. Yi Chen's eyes gleamed. Demonic energy. Bang, bang, bang. Another violent and crisp sound rang out, and the green jade beads on the altars exploded at the same time. Countless black shadows attacked everyone. Countless screams immediately rang out in the entire hall. As the blood mist sprayed out, it turned into monstrous demonic energy that enveloped the entire hall. Rumble. At the same time, the entire hall began to shake violently. The altars shook the most violently. Endless demonic energy surged out from under the altar. Under the demonic energy, there was a faint heart-palpitating roar, as if something terrifying was about to appear. Chapter 1546. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Along with the explosions of the altars, the entire hall had practically turned dark in an instant. The monstrous demonic energy that was like a ferocious ghost swept everything. The evil aura spread out, causing everyone's expression to change. What is this? Save me, save me. Under the majestic demonic energy, many people who were shrouded in the demonic energy immediately let out heart-wrenching screams. Subsequently, they exploded into a bloody mist, nourishing the demonic energy that was already majestic. Uproar. Meanwhile, the survivors retreated in all directions in shock. Subsequently, true origin energy exploded from all of their bodies at the same time, consolidating a thick layer of true origin energy barrier on the surface of their bodies. However, to their horror, the demonic energy could look down on the energy barrier. In a short while, many people were attacked by the demonic energy and turned into a bloody mist. What the hell is this? Fang Ziyue screamed in fear. At that moment, many evil demonic energy charged at Fang Ziyue like a tidal wave. It seemed like her scream earlier had attracted the attention of the demonic energy. Fang Ziyue's face turned extremely pale at the sight of that. Bang! Just as the demonic chi was about to hit her, a wide arm suddenly landed on her shoulder, then lifted her up and pulled her back over 100 feet. It was Yi Chen who had attacked. Yichen glanced at the demonic energy that was gushing out and waved his sleeve. An energy barrier consolidated on the surface of his body immediately, covering Feng Ziyue and himself within it. His energy barrier was different from the others. It was purplish gold in color, as if purplish gold lightning was exploding on the surface of his body. As soon as the terrifying demonic energy touched the purplish gold energy barrier, it turned into green smoke and dissipated. The remaining demonic energy seemed to have a life of its own as it swept past him automatically. As many people died, tragically one after another, someone finally saw how extraordinary Yichen was. Many people rushed toward him immediately. "Fellow Taoist, please save me. I'm from the Taichu Dojo." A sinister-looking old man had a pleading look on his face. "Taichu Dojo?" Yichen's eyes flashed. He waved his sleeve and sent the former flying immediately. "I can save anyone but the people from Taichu Dojo." "You." That person had a look of hatred on his face, as if he wanted to curse out loud. However, he was instantly wrapped up by the demonic qi and turned into a mist of blood. The rest hesitated after hearing what he said. In the end, someone could not help but run to Yichen as if he wanted to seek his protection. Yichen did not reject that. Within a few breaths of time, more than 10 people gathered around him. Without a target, the Grand Devil Qi turned its attention to Huang Fuyu and a young man in a red robe, as if it wanted to devour them completely. Before everyone's eyes, Huang Fuyu snorted coldly. A golden light suddenly shot out from the top of his head. The golden light was like an alms bowl. It emitted a dazzling divine light and hovered above his head. Under the dazzling divine light, the surging demonic qi was actually unable to advance at all. There were many people standing behind him, and, judging from their attire, they were most likely members of the Xianyuan 8 clans. Yichen was not surprised at all when he saw that primordial spirit treasure. Since Huang Fuyu was the reincarnation of the Huangfu clan's patriarch, how could his methods be so simple? On the other hand, a red command flag had suddenly appeared in the red-robed young man's hand. Terrifying divine flames were raining down from the wide flag, and then they enveloped the young man. The flag was clearly a fire-type primordial spirit treasure. As a result, Yichen and the other two's abilities were self-evident among everyone. Demonic Qi. This is demonic Qi. The red-robed young man activated the red flag. His gaze focused as he shouted, "The demonic energy in the demonic land has invaded the outside world. Life? This is the demonic energy in the demonic land?" As his voice fell, everyone trembled violently. The demonic land was a forbidden zone for life. It was the most dangerous place in Yinsu. The demonic energy that enveloped everything had caused countless people to bleed on the spot. Even void refinement old monsters were no exception. What they did not expect was that the demonic energy in the demonic land had invaded the outside world and was hidden in the desolate god's tomb. Damn it, why is there demonic energy in the desolate god's tomb? Someone roared with bloodshot eyes. Could it be that the great desolate old man set up such a trap to lure us in? I'll withdraw and not participate in this matter. A cultivator revealed a timid expression. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire hall shook violently. Then the stone doors that led to this place all fell down, sealing all the exits. Looking at the stone doors again, they were actually made of 10,000-year-old iron. They were extremely heavy and extremely hard. Seeing this scene, many people could not help but feel despair. The exit has been sealed. Are we going to be trapped here until we die? The surging demonic energy was still rising. Everyone present knew very well that regardless of whether it was Yichen, Huang Fuyu, or the red-robed young man, their true origin energy would be exhausted sooner or later. Once their true origin energy was exhausted, it would be the end of everyone. Rumble. At this moment, countless black demonic shadows shot out from the bottom of the violently shaking altars like terrifying beasts. What's that? Looking at this sudden scene, everyone's expressions tensed up. Under everyone's gazes, the black shadows seemed to be condensed from extremely pure demonic energy. Although their bodies were illusory, They were humanoid, and all of them emitted an extremely evil aura. It's a demon. Yi Chun and Huang Fuyu spoke at the same time. Huang Fuyu glanced at Yi Chun and said with a serious expression, "If I'm not wrong, these are demons born from the demonic energy. In other words, there are many terrifying existences hidden in the demonic soil." "That's right." The red-robed young man also said, "These demons are even more terrifying than demonic energy. Looks like this so-called desolate god's tomb is actually a demonic lair." In less than a few breaths of time, more and more demons gathered in the hall. These existences widened their scarlet eyes and pounced at Yi Chun and the other two like a swarm of locusts. They were like fearless ants as they frantically used their demonic energy to attack the protective barrier of the three of them. Under such an impact, the divine flame on the red chess piece in the red-robed young man's hand began to dim. Clearly, it could not hold on for long. The red-robed young man's expression changed slightly. He could not help but look at Yi Chun and Huang Fuyu. "Guys, there are too many demons. We can't just sit here and wait for death. Otherwise, we'll definitely die. May I know what plan you have?" Huang Fuyu frowned. End of this chapter. Chapter 1547. Yi Chun looked at him too. Although he was not afraid of the demonic energy and monsters, he still brought Feng Ziyue with him. Moreover, he did not want to expose his strength in front of so many people. Under everyone's gazes, the red-robed young man calmly said, "My name is Feng Wuxie. In my opinion, we should open up the barrier and let some of the monsters in. All of you should join forces to kill them. Only then will we have a chance of survival." After he said that, everyone fell into silence. Countless people's eyes flickered as if they were thinking about Feng Wuxie's words. Fellow Taoist Feng is right. Someone immediately said, "Instead of wasting time like this, why don't we open the defense and let some monsters in? With so many of us working together, we will definitely be able to kill them. This way, we can reduce the pressure on the three of you." "That's a good idea." The others nodded. Huang Fuyu nodded and said, "Sure, let's do as you say, fellow Feng." He could not help but turn his head to look at Yi Chun after saying that. "What do you think, brother Yi?" In an instant, everyone looked at Yi Chun. Even Feng Wuxie was no exception. Yi Chun said with a faint smile, "Of course, I have no objections." "All right, since that's the case, let's begin." Feng Wuxie nodded slightly, then formed a seal, and a crack appeared on the divine flame barrier released by the red flag in his hand. At that moment, a monster took the opportunity to attack and pounced at the person behind Feng Wuxie. "Attack! Rumble!" Before Feng Wuxie could speak, the cultivators behind him immediately attacked. All sorts of divinities and spells landed on the monster. The monster was shattered on the spot. Everyone was overjoyed when they saw this. Huang Fuyu did not want to fall behind. He tore apart the divine light barrier that enveloped this person and released no less than 3 monsters at once. The 3 monsters were killed, just like before. Yi Chun did the same. He tore open the energy barrier and let the monsters in. He did not attack. Instead, he asked the people behind him to contribute their strength. After all, his obligation was only to protect Feng Ziyue's safety. As for the people behind him, he had nothing to say about being able to save them. As time passed, the number of monsters in the hall began to decrease at a speed visible to the naked eye. What surprised everyone the most was that as the countless monsters were killed, even the demonic chi that enveloped the hall began to weaken. In the end, the devil chi and monsters vanished, and the entire hall returned to its original tranquility. Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu hesitated for a moment. They could not help but put away their primordial spirit treasures and began to quickly recover their primordial chi. Someone heaved a sigh of relief. Those terrifying things are finally gone. Yi Chun frowned and looked around after dispelling the energy barrier. Subsequently, he secretly spoke to Feng Ziyue through voice transmission. "Be careful. Don't be careless." Feng Ziyue's heart sank. Although she didn't understand the meaning behind his words, she still nodded her head with a solemn expression. Now that there was no longer any danger, many people immediately went to the sealed exit and attacked the stone door with all their might. However, to their despair, The numerous stone doors were utterly impenetrable, and they were unable to move them in the slightest, no matter what they did. Swoosh! Right at that moment, before everyone's eyes, the altars began to explode one after another. Suddenly, countless rays of black light shot out from the terrifying might. Within the endless black light, an old figure slowly appeared. The old figure slowly walked out, emitting an extremely evil aura. It was as if a demon god had crawled out of that area. What's that? Someone was uneasy. Looking at the old figure, the terrifying aura emanating from its body caused everyone's hearts to palpitate. Late-stage void refinement. Yichen's calm gaze finally changed. He said softly, "Late-stage void refinement." As soon as he said that, the entire hall suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Late-stage void refinement. One had to know that the strongest among them was only at stage soul formation. However, the evil existence before them was actually at the late-stage void refinement. The Great Desolation Elder. Feng Wuxie stared fixedly at the old figure. His throat trembled violently a few times before he suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air and said, "He's the Great Desolation Elder." What? He's the Great Desolation Elder? Didn't the Great Desolation Elder die? How did he become like this? At that moment, everyone's expressions changed completely. After all, the person standing before them was the owner of the desolate god's tomb, the Great Desolation Elder, the existence who had killed his way into the demonic land by himself. Huang Fuyu said in a deep voice, "If I'm not wrong, this Great Desolation Elder has probably been corroded by demonic energy. To be precise, he's comparable to a late-stage void refinement demon." As soon as he finished speaking, the entire place fell deathly silent. Hee. At this moment, an ear-piercing shriek suddenly came from the Great Desolation Elder's mouth. "Kid, you have good eyesight. You can actually tell the situation of the Great Desolation Elder." Then, the Great Desolation Elder, who was wrapped in monstrous, demonic energy, stared coldly at everyone with a pair of blood-red eyes. Back then, the Great Desolation Elder barged into the demonic land to challenge that feathered beast and failed. He was heavily injured and wanted to return to the outside world, but he didn't expect to be entangled by me. I tried my best to make him submit to me, but this old thing was extremely stubborn. He would rather die than be demonized. Moreover, he set up many methods to suppress me after his death. His face suddenly became incomparably sinister. In reality, he also succeeded and suppressed me for many years. If not for the desolate god's tomb seal being attacked, and you all barging in, I'm afraid that I would have been sealed for who knows how many more years. At this point, he could not help but look at everyone and laugh sinisterly. Therefore, in return, I will demonize all of you, especially the three of you. You're qualified to become my demon puppets. He looked at Yi Chun, Huang Fuyu, and Feng Wuxie. The three of you have pretty good aptitude. I believe you'll be even more amazing after being demonized. The moment that was said, everyone's expressions changed. They did not expect there to be such a secret, nor did they expect that it was their intrusion that released this demon. At this moment, a faint voice sounded in the hall. "You're just a demon that has been suppressed for many years. How dare you spout nonsense here?" It was Yi Chen who spoke. He looked at the Great Desolation Elder with a faint smile. "If I'm not wrong, you're at most a demon general, right?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1548. Demon General? Everyone in the hall was stunned when they heard Yi Chen's words. Clearly, it was their first time hearing of such an existence. Only Huang Fuyu's deep eyes flashed with splendor. "Master, you must give this demon general to me." At the same time, an impatient voice sounded in Yi Chen's mind. "If I devour it, I'll be able to cultivate to become a demon general and increase Master's combat strength." "Duqian Devil King?" Yi Chen said softly and could not help but smile. "If you hadn't spoken, I would have forgotten about your existence." He had rescued a strange prisoner from the Purple Firmament Immortal Sex prison. This person claimed to be a strand of demonic consciousness that had betrayed the Devil World's Duqian Devil King. Yi Chen had ignored him previously. He did not expect this person to sense the existence of the demon general before him. So he spoke for the first time. "Good job, Rat." Old Man Great Desolation's pupils constricted slightly when he heard what Yi Chen said. He looked at Yi Chen coldly again. "I didn't expect you to see through my background with a single glance. I'm getting more and more interested in you. Brat, if you're willing to submit to me now, I can spare your life. I'll also grant you the supreme cultivation method of the demon clan to forge an immortal body." He glanced at Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu. "The same goes for the two of you. Otherwise, I'll wipe out your divine consciousness and refine you into my demon puppet." Arrogant. Feng Wuxie's gaze focused as he sneered. "I've never bowed to anyone in my life. So what if you're a Zenith Heaven immortal, let alone a demon general?" He could not help but look at Yi Chen and Huang Fuyu after saying that. "Both of you, if you want to submit to this demon, I won't force you. If you're unwilling, join forces with me and fight him to the death. Do you think the dark things in the demon soil are worthy of me submitting?" Huang Fuyu smiled faintly. His long silver hair was like the Milky Way. "Today, I'd like to experience the methods of a demon like you." Subsequently, he looked at Yi Chen by instinct. "Brother Yi, no matter what grudges we have in the past, I hope we can let go of our past grudges and fight the enemy together." Yi Chen said calmly, "Since that's the case, let's fight." Boom! In an instant, countless terrifying storms were set off in the hall. Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu both erupted with vast pressure and true origin. Wait! Right at this moment, a flustered voice rang out. "Lord Demon General, I'm willing to submit to you. Please spare my life." A sinister-looking old man took a few steps forward and looked at Old Man Great Desolation with a pleading expression. A cultivator immediately said angrily, "Old Man Ing Yuan, sorry." Old Man Ing Yuan's expression was indifferent as he said, "My original intention of cultivating was to live longer, so I'm not willing to accompany all of you in death." As his words faded, the eyes of many people in the hall flickered incomparably before endless voices rang out. "Lord Devil General, I'm also willing to submit." And me. In just a few short breaths, more than half of the people stood up one after another and suddenly changed sides. The atmosphere suddenly became extremely tense. Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu's expressions were extremely ugly. Clearly, they did not expect such a huge turn of events. Old Man Great Desolation laughed sinisterly. "Lowly ants, do you see clearly that this is the general trend? Kill them." With that, he suddenly waved his hand and immediately gave the order to the many cultivators who had chosen to submit to him. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, the entire hall was instantly replaced by a dense killing intent and a dense aura. It was as if the temperature had suddenly dropped by dozens of degrees. "Everyone, sorry for the offense." Old Man Ing Yuan turned around and looked at Yi Chen and the rest coldly. He smirked coldly. Subsequently, a dense killing intent erupted from his body like a flood. Rumble. As all sorts of tremors rang out, a great battle broke out. Many divinities and spells collided crazily in the hall, and there were screams mixed in. Feng Ziyue's face was pale. She moved closer to Yi Chen by instinct. Clearly, she did not expect things to turn out like this. Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu acted as if they did not see this scene. Instead, their gazes were fixed on Old Man Great Desolation. This was because they knew that no matter how intense the battle around them was, the one who truly decided the outcome was still Old Man Great Desolation. "Guys, what are you waiting for?" Feng Wuxie let out a long roar. Resplendent divine flames suddenly bloomed from his palms, bringing with them an enormous force of fire as they attacked Old Man Great Desolation. The resplendent divine flames actually melted the space in the hall to the point that it was about to shake, as if it could not bear the weight. "Looks like this person specializes in fire-type martial arts." Yi Chen's eyes flashed. Old Man Great Desolation acted as if he did not see that terrifying attack. He revealed a disdainful expression and stood on the spot without moving. Boom! As the attack landed on his body, the terrifying might that erupted caused the entire hall to shake violently. At the same time, the people who were fighting stopped at the same time and stared fixedly at the center of the shocking storm. A massive sea of flames rose in that direction, as if it wanted to devour Old Man Great Desolation. Feng Wuxia's expression was solemn as he remained motionless. In the next moment, the sea of fire suddenly disappeared and was replaced by overwhelming demonic energy. It was as if a hole had been smashed through the earth, releasing too much evil aura. Amidst the monstrous demonic energy, a figure that was over 60 meters tall appeared, giving off a palpitating feeling. Feng Zhue said with a trembling voice, "What is that?" As the demonic energy dissipated, a gigantic demonic creature was exposed in the air. The demonic creature had 2 heads and 4 arms. Its face was ferocious, and its fangs were bared. It was extremely terrifying. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air at the sight of this, and their faces were filled with shock. Yi Chun said, "It's that demon general's main body. Foolish humans, since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then I'll have no choice but to make your souls scatter." The gigantic demon spoke in human language, and its demonic energy surged into the sky. Clang! An earth-shattering sword hum rang out, sounding like a dragon's roar in everyone's ears. Then, a silver sword appeared in Huang Fuyu's hand. The silver sword was like an incomparably white dragon, and its sword intent was oppressive. Just the sword chi that it emitted made many people around feel as if they were facing a great enemy. Attack! Huang Fuyu slashed with his sword. In the air, sword chi was like a rainbow. A white rainbow-like sword chi that was 30 meters long swept out from his hand and headed straight for the demonized Old Man Great Desolation. Feng Wuxia was unwilling to fall behind. He clasped his palms together and condensed a scarlet flame spear in the air. The moment the spear appeared, the space seemed to have turned into a sea of fire. End of this chapter. Chapter 1549. Yichen took a deep breath in as his eyes flashed. He knew very well that even though the existence in Elder Great Desolation's body was only a demon general, it was still at the late-stage void refinement stage. He was indeed unable to fight the former alone. Since that was the case, he could only join forces with Huang Fuyu and the rest. Thinking to this point, he immediately took a step forward. It was simple and direct, and he threw a punch. Endless Divine Might swept out, as if it could destroy everything. At this moment, the 3 of them joined forces, and their might was vast as they pressed towards Elder Great Desolation. The fluctuations caused everyone's expressions to change. "Guys, his life gate is on his 2 heads. At the same time, Yi Chun said slowly, "There are demon cores in those 2 heads. You just need to shatter the demon cores to destroy him." "All right." Feng Wuxia and Huang Fuyu nodded in succession. Their attacks suddenly changed, and they directly attacked Elder Great Desolation's 2 heads. Boom! Elder Great Desolation suddenly raised his head, and a demonic sound screamed out from his mouth. The demonic sound was strange and terrifying. The pair of demonic eyes on the head suddenly opened, and 2 demonic energy dragons shot out from his eyes, turning into a demonic energy barrier that protected his head. Yichen had clearly pointed out its weakness. Rumble. At the same time, Feng Wuxia and Huang Fuyu's attacks all landed on the Devil Chi Light Shield. In an instant, the Devil Chi Light Shield was completely submerged. However, in the next moment, their expressions changed drastically because their attacks were useless against the demonic energy barrier. Boom! 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 At that moment, Yichen's attack landed. His fist shook the heavens. Everyone seemed to see a rising sun blossoming in the hall. It was extremely dazzling. Then, the monster that Elder Great Desolation had transformed into let out a muffled groan and took a few steps back. Bang! At the same time, the demonic chi light shield formed by one of its heads shattered with a loud bang. B***starred. Elder Great Desolation revealed a furious expression as he glared at Yi Chun. "I didn't expect you to cultivate your body to such a level." Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu's attacks were useless against it. However, Yichen managed to repel it with a single attack. As such, it was obvious who was stronger among the three of them. He was not the only one. Even Huang Fuyu and Feng Wuxie took a good look at Yichen. Countless splendor flashed through their eyes. If we were facing the great desolation old man when he was alive, it might be difficult to deal with him. Fortunately, we are facing you. Yichen smiled lightly. You're a demon after all. You can't use cultivation techniques, so you can't unleash the great desolation old man's ability. If the great desolation old man were to come back to life, not to mention attacking, even if he released a trace of pressure belonging to the late void refinement stage, no one present would be able to move at all. Even if your body is strong, you will still die today. Old Man Great Wilderness roared. As a dark light flashed, his four arms charged at Yichen like layers of ghosts. Good timing. Yichen activated his true origin energy and took the initiative to meet the four demonic arms. He used his fingers as a saber and turned them into a peerless saber gleam that sliced through the void directly. Whoosh, 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 boundless saber intent swept out with Yichen as the center. His long black hair fluttered as if he was possessed by a god or demon, killing everything in his way. Bang, bang, bang. The peerless saber gleam landed on the four demonic arms, immediately causing the sound of metal colliding. It was accompanied by dazzling sparks, and two of them were cut off first. Meanwhile, the remaining two demonic arms pointed at Yichen's heart as if they wanted to pierce through it. Boom! At that moment, with two loud bangs, Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu attacked. Their attacks landed directly on the two heads of the Great Desolation. The Great Desolation old man's expression changed slightly. He immediately stretched out his hand, and two demonic arms separated to affect Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu. Yichen was waiting for that opportunity. He swept his fist and destroyed half of the Great Desolation old man's body directly. Too powerful. Countless people were shocked when they saw that. That was an existence comparable to a late-stage void refinement stage cultivator. Half of his body was destroyed by Yichen's punch. How terrifying was his physical strength. Everyone knew very well that if it were not for Yichen, the situation would not be like this today. Roar, roar, roar. After suffering such a heavy injury, the Great Desolation old man roared. Lowly humans, congratulations on successfully angering me. As soon as he finished speaking, the remaining half of his body that was destroyed by Yichen changed again. Countless red gleams shot out from his body. The huge demonic body turned corporeal once again. What was even stranger was that the eyes of the two heads that were enveloped by the demonic chi light barrier slowly closed. Countless dark red flakes of light were condensing at an astonishing speed below them. In the end, it condensed into the figure of a person. As the blood-colored light flickered nonstop, his flesh and bones began to flicker with a strange luster. Countless blood-colored rays of light quickly reconstructed his skin on the surface of his body. In just a few breaths of time, pieces of fresh muscles formed on the surface of his body. On the other hand, the demonic body that Yichen had destroyed began to shrink rapidly. It seemed like it was being absorbed by the human figure in the demonic energy barrier that covered his head. What is this? Someone swallowed his saliva and said. The scene before them was simply too strange and evil. Yichen stared fixedly at the changes. A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. He said immediately, disintegration and transformation. This is the supreme secret technique of demonic techniques, the heavenly demon disintegration technique. Stop him. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly took a step forward and let out a long howl before he immediately struck out with an unparalleled 10th annihilation fist, and it crushed the surrounding space. Following his words, Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu took a step forward. Feng Wuxie and Huang Fuyu were stunned at first. Then they suddenly reacted. They could not help but suck in a breath of cold air and suddenly attacked Old Man Great Desolation. As the saying went, the way of the heavens was to take away excess and make up for deficiency. As for the way of the devil, there was an end to life and an end to destruction. Therefore, there was an end to life and an end to creation. The heavenly demon was born. In short, the heavenly demon disintegration technique was a demonic technique that relied on burning blood essence to increase one's combat strength. Clearly, the existence in Old Man Great Desolation's body planned to burn Old Man Great Desolation's blood essence to kill Yi Chun and the rest at all costs. At that moment, everyone was surprised to discover that Old Man Great Desolation, who was solving the question quickly, suddenly trembled violently. Then, his body started to tremble, and a struggling expression appeared on his face. Old Man Great Desolation suddenly spoke, and an incomparably old voice came from his mouth. "Miluo, you want to sacrifice me? Dream on." As soon as he finished speaking, Old Man Great Desolation's expression distorted again, becoming incomparably sinister. "Old Man Great Desolation, I didn't expect you to have such a trump card." End of this chapter. Chapter 1550. Old Man Great Desolation, I didn't expect you to have such a trump card. At this moment, in the hall, the demonic body that Old Man Great Desolation had transformed into was struggling violently. Old Man Great Desolation's face also twitched continuously, sometimes becoming extremely ferocious, and sometimes becoming an old face. The monstrous demonic energy in the surroundings also became incomparably violent along with this change. Bai Luo, I predicted this day before I died, so I left some tricks up my sleeves. I didn't expect it to be of use. The voice of the old face that Old Man Great Desolation had transformed into was incomparably hoarse. Clearly, he was trying his best to fight for control of the body with the demon general in his body. This sudden scene caused the entire hall to fall deathly silent. Everyone looked at the unforeseen event in disbelief. At the same time, Yi Chun and the other two chose to remain silent by instinct. Fangzi bit her red lips tightly as she looked at Old Man Great Desolation, who had undergone an unexpected change. Could it be that Old Man Great Desolation isn't dead? Her question was what countless people were thinking. If Old Man Great Desolation was really not dead, then wouldn't their actions today anger this existence who had once killed his way into the forbidden area? No. Yichen shook his head lightly and said, Old Man Great Desolation died a long time ago. This is just a trick that he left behind back then. It can be understood as a self-sealed spiritual consciousness. He also admired Old Man Great Desolation for being able to predict so many things before he died. As expected of a tribulation stage, almighty. Damn it. The old face suddenly changed into a ferocious face. Old Man Great Desolation, you damn it. You actually set up such a method in your body. After saying that, his body trembled even more frequently. If one took a closer look, they would discover that countless violent demonic energy seemed to want to spread out from his body. However, no matter what, they could not break through the shackles of Old Man Great Desolation's body. It was as if a formation had been set up in his body. Bai Luo, give up. Old Man Great Desolation's aged voice sounded again. I've waited for so many years for this day. If you didn't use the heavenly demon disintegration, I wouldn't have been able to do anything to you. Unfortunately, you fulfill my wish. Perhaps this is fate. No, the demon general roared again and again. You were no match for me when you were alive, not to mention the remnant soul you left behind after you died. Dowheart, sea devil form, accompanied by ghostly wails and wolf howls that shook the entire hall, Old Man Great Desolation's eyes turned extremely black at a speed visible to the naked eye. They were as deep and unfathomable as black holes, mixed with an evil aura. The so-called Tao Heart Devil Seed was to plant a strand of devilish intent within another's body. In this way, even if the person's body died, the strand of devilish intent could be revived. Meanwhile, the Duqian Devil King that Yi Chun had put into the 8-divisional pagoda was the same. This Tao Heart Demonic Seed was a secret technique of the devil race, and it would only be used as a last resort. Seeing that the situation wasn't right, The demon general wanted to use the Tao heart demon seed, planting a demonic thought in the Tao heart of everyone present so that they could be revived. However, what made it despair was that this secret technique could not be projected to the outside world at all, let alone implanted in people's bodies. It roared again and again. Impossible! This is impossible! Mei Luo, just give up. Old Man Great Desolation's voice sounded. Since I've set up such a method, I've calculated all your responses. Everyone watched this scene in shock and fear. They were shocked by the revival of Old Man Great Desolation's remnant soul. At the same time, they admired the former's methods. At that moment, an unusually hoarse voice suddenly sounded in Yi Chun and the other two's minds. My three little friends, please lend me a hand. Feng Wu Xie asked doubtfully. Are you really Old Man Great Desolation's remnant soul? Old Man Great Desolation was extremely talented back then. Even though he had died long ago, everyone had some respect for him. I was impulsive back then, and I've left behind the consequences today. Old Man Great Desolation said bitterly, my only wish is to eliminate this demon general. Please help me. I don't have much time left. How should we help you? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. Feng Wuxie and Huang Fu Yu's expressions changed when they heard that. Don't worry, my three little friends. Just do your best to cooperate with me. I guarantee that I won't endanger your safety. As soon as he finished speaking, a fire dragon suddenly soared into the sky from his body. The fire dragon was extremely dignified, and its entire body blossomed with resplendent divine flames. Every scale was like sharp armor. As soon as it appeared, Yi Chun and Huang Fu Yu felt the vital energy and blood in their bodies surge violently. Especially Huang Fu Yu, his blood was almost gushing. Almost at that moment, the entire Yin ruins was shaken. In the demon god forest, a scholar's eyes shot into the sky, and he said with a smile, the Emperor's seal still appeared? Wuhan, I'm looking forward to your choice. In the immortal tower of Tianyuan City, a handsome man stood high up and muttered, is it Mad Southern Yi or Huang Fu Yu? Behind him stood a peerless beauty that could topple nations. In the depths of Yin ruins, a mysterious being that looked like an ancient giant ape looked at the endless demonic energy. I can sense the aura of a great emperor. I think the lost emperor's seal has appeared. What's that? In the desolate god's tomb, under everyone's gazes, the fire dragon stood in the air and glanced at Old Man of Great Desolation with its dignified eyes. Then, its body swayed and turned into a blazing sun that seemed to be condensed from resplendent divine flames. The blazing sun emitted a divine might that was like an ocean, dazzling everyone. Some even subconsciously wanted to kneel on the ground. Emperor's seal, this is the great Emperor's seal. Huang Fu Yu blurted out subconsciously, and his expression finally changed slightly. The moment that was said, the expressions of many people present changed. Their eyes erupted with dazzling greed. The seal of great Emperor Xian Yuan. Yi Chen's eyes flashed. Is this the Emperor's seal? Bastard, bastard. At the same time, a voice of disbelief and even fear came from Old Man of Great Desolation's mouth. Old Man of Great Desolation, you actually sacrificed your remnant soul to activate this Emperor seal just to kill me. My three young friends, please infuse true origin energy into this old man's body. Old Man of Great Desolation's voice was like thunder. As soon as he finished speaking, Feng Wuxie was the first to respond. He erupted all the true origin energy in his body and poured it into Old Man of Great Desolation's body. Huang Fu Yu hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. Fellow Great Desolation, since you're so determined and willing to bury yourself as a demon, how can I not help you? Yi Chen chuckled softly and extended one hand. As the space distorted, true origin energy that was like a golden ocean poured out from his body. Buzz, as the true origin energy of the three of them overlapped. It was like a flame had fallen into a pot of boiling oil, causing the space to immediately go berserk. At the same time, the Emperor's seal that circled above Old Man of Great Desolation's head shone brightly. Vast divine flames pressed down, as if they covered the sky and earth, destroying everything. As the divine flames descended, the countless demonic energy on the surface of Old Man of Great Desolation's body seemed to have met its natural enemy and turned into nothingness. Damn it! Under such an unforeseen event, Demon General Mi Luo finally felt a fatal threat. He immediately roared, "It won't be that easy to kill me." Chapter 1551. Demonic Wheel Corrosion. In an instant, monstrous demonic energy spread out from Old Man Great Desolation's body. Then, it condensed into a black ball of light above his head. From afar, it looked like a black sun. Obviously, he was going all out. He wanted to use the demonic wheel corrosion technique to cover the terrifying divine flames brought by the Emperor's seal. Mi Luo, just give up. You've lived for so long. It's time to end it. Old Man Great Desolation's remnant soul had a determined expression as he desperately burned the last bit of his remnant soul to activate the divine might in the Emperor's seal. Boom, boom, boom. With his sacrifice, the Emperor's seal once again erupted with tens of thousands of rays of divine light. At the same time, dragon roars rang out endlessly, and the divine sound was deafening. 8 dragon-shaped divine flames descended and directly pierced through the black ball of light that enveloped below. In the end, it landed on Old Man Great Desolation. No, I can't die here. When Demon General Mi Luo sensed the destructive aura, he finally could not help but roar, "I can't accept this. You lowly humans, the kings of the devil world will descend upon the demonic land, flatten your plane, and enslave you forever." Boom! As the 8 dragon-shaped divine flames descended, all the demonic energy in the hall was wiped out, including Old Man Great Desolation's body. Amidst the miserable and shrill cries, Old Man Great Desolation's last trace of relief sounded. It's over. His last trace of remnant soul was about to be destroyed. At that moment, a ray of divine light suddenly landed on his remnant soul. At the same time, Yi Chen's voice sounded. "What other last wishes do you have? Why don't you tell me? I'll do it for you if I have the chance in the future." Although Old Man Great Desolation came from the outer realm, he was considered a big shot in the spirit world when he was alive. For the sake of a small plane like Earth, he did not hesitate to leave behind such a method to eliminate this demon general. Under the nourishment of the divine light, Old Man Great Desolation took one last look at the hall as if he was reminiscing. Subsequently, his old voice sounded in Yi Chen's mind. "If you have the chance to ascend to the spirit world in the future, please visit my granddaughter in the Great Desolation world. I left quietly back then. I wonder how that child is now. Young friend, my granddaughter's name is Shui Yao." Yi Chen thought to himself, "I'll remember that." Old Man Great Desolation glanced at everyone and looked at the Emperor's seal above his head that had lost its divine glow. Eventually, his gaze landed on Yi Chen and the other two. "Forget it. I'll fulfill your wish." He waved his sleeve as soon as he was done speaking. Yi Chen and the other two felt their vision blur. Subsequently, they entered a hazy space. The space was boundless and chaotic. It was difficult to see beyond 5 meters. Yi Chen frowned slightly as he was inside. He extended his divine consciousness immediately in an attempt to see through the space. There's no need to look. This is the space inside the Sovereign Seal. At that moment, a faint voice suddenly sounded in Yi Chen's mind. Then, a figure appeared before Yi Chen. That figure seemed to be a black-clothed old man with a mustache. Coupled with his eyes that were like mung beans, he gave off a shifty-eyed feeling. Yi Chen frowned. "Your great Emperor Xianyuan?" Although I want to say yes, I don't have the guts. Meeting his gaze, the black-clothed old man chuckled. "I'm just the artifact spirit of this Emperor's seal. I once followed the great Emperor. You can call me Old Fan." Yi Chen said, "Why did you take me into this Emperor's seal space?" "Of course I saw something." Old Fan grinned and looked at him with a faint smile. "There's a familiar aura on you. If I'm not wrong, it's the aura of the great Emperor's confidant back then." Yi Chen frowned. "Confidant? Back then, the great emperor was peerless. Naturally, there were countless suitors. Among them, there was a woman who was the most determined. In the end, she even sacrificed herself for the great emperor to seal that ancient immortal. As he stroked his mustache, he began to gossip. Then, he smiled bitterly. Forget it, there's no point in talking about this. Now, let's talk about my conditions. A fixed price. He extended 3 fingers with a smile. From now on, you need to find 3 pure yang spirit veins for me every year for me to devour. Yi Chen's eyes flickered. Why? Old Fan rubbed his hands and said while smiling, "That's why I'm willing to follow you." Yi Chen smiled too. "Did I say I want you to follow me?" Old Fan was speechless. At the same time, in the other 2 Emperor's seal spaces, Huang Fuyu knelt on the ground respectfully and said to Old Fan, "Old Fan, I'm a member of the Huangfu family of the 8 Xianyuan clans. Please choose me. Help me obtain the Xianyuan sword, inherit the great emperor's inheritance, and eliminate everything." He had planned for this day for a long time. He had even severed his cultivation base and dropped from void refinement to perfected soul formation. This was because the emperor's seal and the Xianyuan sword were both items of the great emperor, and they were symbols of status. Once he obtained them, not only would he obtain the recognition of the Yinshu Realm Guardian, he would also obtain the great emperor's inheritance and know where the ancient immortal was sealed. At that moment, Old Fan was not convinced by his previous wretched appearance. He said with a dignified and indifferent expression, "Since you're the descendant of the great emperor, there's no need to be so polite. Before deciding who the emperor's seal belongs to, you have to write a word in front of me." "Old Fan, please tell me what word it is." Huang Fuyu nodded slightly. Old Fan stroked his mustache and coughed. "The word human." Although Huang Fuyu was extremely puzzled, he still nodded his head. He took a deep breath, used his finger as a brush, and wrote the character human in the air with vigorous strokes. Old Fan squinted and took a few looks before nodding to himself. Meanwhile, in the space where Yi Chen was, Old Fan almost knelt to Yi Chen. "Little brother, please do a good deed. Please write a word. My mission will be completed after you're done." He really lost his temper with Yi Chen. Countless people dreamed of being the inheritor of the emperor's seal. However, when it came to Yi Chen, it was like a rock in the toilet. It was smelly and hard. Yi Chen could not argue with him. He wrote the word human casually and said, "Old thing, let me out. Don't make me angry." Old Fan stared at the word he wrote. The cynical smile on his face disappeared immediately. He then bowed to Yi Chen solemnly. "Greetings, master." The corner of Yi Chen's lips twitched slightly. "What's going on? Old man, did you extort me?" Old Fan chuckled. "Of course, master passed the test left behind by the great emperor." In another space, Huang Fuyu said with a ferocious expression, "Why? I'm the descendant of the great emperor Xianyuan. Why did you choose an outsider?" His gentle and handsome face no longer existed. No one knew what he was feeling at that moment. He thought that he was determined to get the emperor's seal. Never did he expect that it would benefit Yi Chen, his former enemy. Chapter 1552. It's not like that. It's definitely not like that. Old Fan, tell me, it's definitely not like that, right? Huang Fuyu was on the verge of roaring, his handsome face a little distorted. He had planned too much, and the desolate god's tomb was the most crucial step. Back then, the great desolation old man had barged into the forbidden area to challenge the realm guardian and stolen the emperor's seal. As for the emperor's seal, it was related to whether he could obtain the Xianyuan sword's recognition in the emperor's tomb in the future, as well as the respect of the realm guardian. The next step would be the suppressed immortal soul and immortal body. Now, the emperor's seal had been obtained by someone else, and it was his former enemy. How could he accept that? Old Fan stood quietly in front of him, watching him vent the dissatisfaction in his heart with a calm expression. Finally, he said, "This person passed the test left behind by the great emperor. What's wrong with me choosing him?" "Test? What bullsh asterisk T test?" Huang Fuyu sneered. "Everyone wrote one word. How can we judge that he passed, and I didn't? I'm the direct descendant of the great emperor Xianyuan. I'm the most qualified to inherit the emperor's seal, including everything else." "Old thing, you're biased. I can't accept this. His silver hair billowed furiously, as if it was slanting. I've always been fair and selfless. I've always followed the instructions left behind by the great emperor back then. Old Fan placed his hands behind his back and stared straight at him. He said arrogantly, "Moreover, I'm the artifact spirit of the emperor's seal. Why should I submit?" After saying that, he waved his sleeve and chased Huang Fuyu out. In the desolate god palace's main hall, the great desolation old man's remnant soul had long dissipated. When Yi Chun and Huang Fuyu appeared again, they realized that the hall was empty. Fang Ziyue and the rest were long gone. Killing intent appeared in Huang Fuyu's eyes as soon as he saw Yi Chun, who was flustered and exasperated. "Brother Yi, congratulations. I've calculated everything, but I didn't expect to be the final victor." Yi Chun's eyes flashed when he sensed the killing intent on him. "Why? You can't hide anymore?" As he spoke, he walked toward the former. "Do you want to fight me again? If this he can kill once, I can kill a second time." Seeming to have sensed his killing intent, the Emperor's seal artifact spirit Old Fan could not help but sigh. "Let him go. He is a direct descendant of the Emperor after all. If you kill him, the Xianyuan sword and the World Guardian won't be able to plead for him." Yi Chun could only withdraw his killing intent and glanced at Huang Fuyu. "Get lost." "Very good." Huang Fuyu's expression changed a few times, but he dared not attack Yi Chun in the end. "Brother Yi, so what if I win this round? The game between us has just begun." After saying that, he turned around and shot away. He knew very well that he did not have a good grasp of Yi Chun's ability. Coupled with the help of the Emperor's seal, he would only be asking for trouble if he attacked now. However, Huang Fuyu had not lost yet, and the Xianyuan sword. As long as he obtained the Xianyuan sword's recognition, everything would change. After watching him disappear, Old Fan emerged from the Imperial seal and said with a complicated expression, "Thank you. Acknowledge me as your master." Yi Chun smiled lightly and bit his middle finger. A trace of golden blood fell onto the Emperor's seal in the air immediately. Boom! Roar! In an instant, the world shook violently, as if the sky was about to collapse. The dragon's roar shook the surroundings and resounded throughout the entire Yin ruins. The Imperial seal turned into a crimson dragon that carried monstrous divine might and soared into the sky. It floated above the entire Yin ruins. A pair of dignified eyes looked down on everything. Eventually, it shot into Yi Chun's body. Almost at that moment, the entire Yin ruins saw such a spectacular and shocking scene. "What's that?" The Imperial seal. The Imperial seal has appeared. It looks like it has acknowledged its master. The appearance of the Imperial seal means that the Imperial tomb is about to appear. I'm afraid there's going to be another bloodbath in Yin ruins. Who is it? Who exactly can obtain the Imperial seal's acknowledgement? Huang Fuyu? Or is it Pan Wu, immortal venerable, the heavenly jade holy land, or even the Taichu dojo? Outside the desolate god's tomb, everyone, including Fong Tianqiu, the heavenly venerable of Taichu, and the rest, saw this scene. Their eyes flashed with shock and ecstasy. At the same time, in the demon god forest, Qinqiu Wuhan looked at the enormous crimson dragon shadow in the sky quietly, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. "Congratulations." Shenxian Tower. Linglong, who was dressed in white, held a lantern in her hand. A hint of surprise flashed across her beautiful face. He succeeded. In the end, Qinqiu Wuhan has high standards. The extraordinarily handsome path master of human desire, Chu Zhongtian, looked at the sky and muttered, "Linglong, get ready. After being silent for so many years, it's time for me to move my muscles." The endless demonic earth was evil and strange. Outside the huge palace that looked like a shrine, a mysterious god covered in long hair looked at the crimson dragon in the sky excitedly. The Imperial seal. It's the Imperial seal. The Imperial seal has been activated. It's just activation. Look at how excited you are. The toad lying on his shoulder yawned and said in a bored manner, "What we should be more concerned about is who activated the Imperial seal." Whoosh! At this moment, a ray of divine light suddenly flashed through the endless demonic energy. If one looked closely, they would discover that it was a golden willow leaf. The willow leaf ignored the demonic energy and landed in front of the mysterious creature as if it was alive. "It's him." Seeing this, the mysterious god was stunned at first. Then he said in disbelief, "He obtained the imperial seal's recognition? How is that possible?" "Ha ha ha." The golden toad on his shoulder immediately laughed out loud. "Second brother, I told you long ago that I thought more highly of that guy, but you just wouldn't listen. It shouldn't be like this." The mysterious creature looked at him coldly. "I'll report to the boss right now." At the exit of the desolate god's tomb, countless figures stood in the air, looking at the exit in the distance with burning anticipation. Even the heavenly lord of Primordium and the other void-training old monsters were among them. Below them, countless heads were moving, and they were anxiously waiting. Someone in the crowd below couldn't help but whisper, "Who do you think will obtain the imperial seal this time?" "I think it's very likely to be Huang Fuyu of the Xianyuan 8 clans of China," someone said without even thinking. After all, the Xianyuan 8 clans are the direct descendants of great Emperor Xianyuan. It's the easiest to obtain the imperial seal's recognition. Upon hearing this, many people nodded in agreement. T. However, there were still people who disagreed. A disciple of the Taichu dojo sneered and said, "If that's the case, why haven't the Xianyuan 8 clans obtained the imperial seal after so many years?" Chapter 1553. In my opinion, it's possible for anyone who enters, and there's a high chance that it will be obtained by the people of the 5 great holy lands. After all, the foundation of the 5 great holy lands is beyond our imagination. Stop arguing. The absolute beginning heavenly venerate in the void suddenly spoke when he saw that the atmosphere was a little intense. His voice was like thunder. The world immediately quietened down. The Taichu heavenly lord nodded in satisfaction before turning to Lei Yunzi with a hint of smile on his face. "Old man Lei Yun, Huang Fuyu has quite a high reputation among the Xianyuan 8 races." Lei Yunzi replied in an indifferent manner. "It's just the juniors trying to make us proud." The grand beginning heavenly sovereign's eyes flashed. "Why don't we make a bet?" Lei Yunzi's brows furrowed slightly as he asked coldly, "What do you want to bet?" "Let's bet on whether someone from the Taichu dojo will obtain the imperial seal or Huang Fuyu from the 8 Xianyuan clans." The primeval heavenly lord smiled faintly as if he was certain of his victory. "If my primeval Taoist right obtains the Arch Seal, then you have to agree to a condition of mine. Conversely, I will agree to a condition. Fellow Taoists here can bear witness." Fong Tianqiu, Elder Lu of the Heavenly Jade Holy Ground, and the 3rd Duke of the Great Jiang Divine Dynasty looked at him coldly. They didn't expect him to be so confident. Lei Yunzi's eyes flickered when he met the Heavenly Venerate's confident gaze. "If you want to use this to get information about Mad Southern Ye's family, I advise you to give up. I've said that it's impossible. You worry too much." The heavenly venerable of absolute beginning seemed to have guessed that he would say that. He could not help but smile and say, "If I win, I don't want Mad Southern Ye's family. My conditions will definitely not make things difficult for you." Lei Yunzi contemplated this momentarily before nodding in response. "All right, I'll make a bet with you." The grand beginning heavenly sovereign slowly closed his eyes. "Then we shall wait and see." Lei Yunzi and the others couldn't help but exchange glances upon seeing this, and they could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. "They're here, they're coming out." At the same time, a cry of surprise suddenly sounded out from the crowd below. At the same time, all the gazes in this region looked towards the exit of the desolate god's tomb, only to see figures shooting out one after another. "It's Li Zitong from 8 Wilderness Sect and Penghai Maisha Luo Sect." As the figures appeared one after another, many people cried out in excitement. After all, the people who entered this time were the elites of the various sections. No one would be able to accept any losses. After approximately the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, roughly 30 people walked out from the exit of the desolate god's tomb. However, this result was something that countless forces could not accept. After all, there were at least 80 people who went in, if not 100. Now that less than half of them had returned, could it be that the remaining people had met with an accident? At the same time, everyone noticed a strange phenomenon. None of the people who came out alive were from the 5 great Saint lands. From the beginning to the end, no one saw a single person from the 5 great Saint lands. Even the primordial heavenly sovereign and the others in the void frowned. Boom! The primordial heavenly sovereign reached out and forcefully pulled a person over from the ground. He said solemnly, "Let me ask you, why are you waiting for someone to come out? We're the people of Taichu Taoist, right? And the people of my Xinyuan 8 clans, Lei Yunzi and the others chimed in. The person who was pulled over was the disciple of the 8 desolate sect, Li Zitong. Meeting the gazes of so many old monsters, Li Zitong stammered, "We encountered many dangers as soon as we entered, and many of us died." The primordial heavenly sovereign interrupted him. "Get to the point. What happened to the people of Taichu Taoist, right? If there's even half a lie, I'll burn your bones and scatter your ashes on the spot." The people of Taichu Taoist, right, are all dead. Li Zitong's body trembled as he said, "Divine Sun Ho and young master Su Mingqi of the Panwu, Celestial Exalt, even died at the hands of mad Southern Yi." As soon as he finished speaking, the heavens and the earth suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Mad Southern Yi? How is this possible? When did he sneak into the desolate god's tomb? Why don't we notice? My God, I didn't expect the geniuses of Taichu Taoist right and the Panwu Celestial sect to be dead. Especially the Panwu Celestial sect. Including Hongya, there are already 2 people who died at the hands of mad Southern Yi, right? After a short period of silence, this silence was immediately covered by waves of cries of alarm. The powerhouse of the Panwu Celestial sect slapped out his palm and immediately killed the person who spoke earlier. Then he snatched Li Zitong from the primordial heavenly sovereign's hands and said with a grim expression, "I'll ask you again. Did mad Southern Yi really enter the desolate god's tomb and kill our Panwu Celestial sect's young master, Su Mingqi?" "Why, yes." Li Zitong was horrified. "If you don't believe me, you can ask the others." Before he could finish speaking, he let out a blood-curdling scream. It was the powerhouse of the Panwu Celestial sect who had used this soul-searching tactic on him. A few seconds later, the powerhouse of the Panwu Celestial sect squeezed Li Zitong into a bloody mess and took a few more people from the ground to perform the soul-searching tactic. Mad Southern Yi, my Panwu Celestial sect will not rest until one of us is dead. He suddenly laughed out loud and looked at the powerhouse of the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce, Fong Tianqiu, with a gaze filled with killing intent. "Fellow Fong, well done. You actually colluded with mad Southern Yi and allowed him to enter the desolate god's tomb under our noses." As soon as he said that, countless gazes immediately looked at Fong Tianqiu. Meeting everyone's gazes, Fong Tianqiu's expression changed slightly. Then he took a deep breath in and said, "Fellow Hong, I don't understand what you're talking about. Why are you still acting with us at a time like this?" The powerhouse of the Panwu Celestial sect sneered. "I searched the souls of a few people and found out that mad Southern Yi is the external help that Fong Zua, a disciple of the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce's Purple faction, invited." As soon as he said that, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Fong Tianqiu was stunned at first. Then, he could not help but think of Yichun. Yichun is mad Southern Yi? I see. What a cunning brat. Sensing their unfriendly gazes, he immediately said, "Everyone, I'm really not sure about this. If the external help that Ziyue invited is really mad Southern Yi, my Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce will definitely not interfere in this grudge." He knew very well that today's matter had completely blown up. If he was even slightly careless, it might cause public anger. Mad Southern Yi, it's mad Southern Yi again. The heavenly sovereign of absolute beginning was so angry that he laughed. His killing intent surged. "Today, we'll join forces to block the exit of the desolate god's tomb. Let's see what else we can do." As he spoke, another screen of light appeared at the exit of the desolate god's tomb. Then a man in black walked out. It's Jiang Li and the rest. Elder Liu and the others from the great Jiang God dynasty and the heavenly jade Holy Land were delighted. The heavenly sovereign of absolute beginning was one step ahead of them as he walked towards Jiang Li and the rest. He said coldly, "Nephew Jiang Li, let me ask you, is Mad Southern Yi in the desolate god's tomb? Who obtained the emperor's seal?" Chapter 1554. Buzz at the exit of the desolate god's tomb. Amidst the dazzling and strange fluctuations of the formation, under the attention of countless gazes. Dressed in a black python robe, the godson of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Li, slowly walked out of the formation. Behind him followed the heavenly jade saintess and the genius disciples of the 8 Xinyuan clans. Breathing in the fresh air of the outside world, Jiang Li was in a daze. "I've finally walked out alive." During this trip to the desolate god's tomb, he had originally vowed and was confident. He thought that with his talent, he would be able to fight for the emperor's seal in the desolate god's tomb. Unexpectedly, he met that person. He had survived 3 times in a row at that person's hands. It could be said to be extremely dangerous, but Hongya and the others, who were of the same generation, were scared out of their wits. It was because he had survived that he knew the beauty of living. However, he did not want to stay in the desolate god's tomb for a moment, nor did he want to face that person again. He was not the only one who had the same thoughts. Just as Jiang Li was sighing with emotion, he saw an incomparably dignified figure charging at him. Immediately after, an extremely shocking voice sounded in his mind. "Nephew Jiang Li, let me ask you, is Mad Southern Yi in the desolate god's tomb? And who obtained the emperor's seal?" Jiang Li could not be more familiar with this voice. Everyone, including him, stiffened. Jiang Li even cupped his fists and said, "Senior absolute beginning, Mad Southern Yi has indeed appeared in the desolate god's tomb." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, he felt the world suddenly shake violently, and then countless terrifying killing intent arose. Lei Yunzi, who was standing in the distance, sighed slightly in his heart. Then, he shook his head without a trace. He did not expect Yi Chun to appear in the desolate god's tomb, as everyone had said. At that moment, the 3rd prince of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Hongyuan, said in a deep voice, "Jiang Li, let me ask you, it said that Mad Southern Yi once slaughtered the people of our 5 sacred grounds in the desolate god's tomb. Is that true?" As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's eyes flickered. Others might not be trustworthy, but Jiang Li was the divine son of the great Jiang divine dynasty. He represented the great Jiang divine dynasty, so his words naturally had a certain degree of credibility. Meeting everyone's gazes, Jiang Li's heart sank, but he still said, "Mad Southern Yi has indeed killed many people in the desolate god's tomb, such as young Master Su of the Panwu Immortal Sect, Godson Ho of the Taichu Dojo, and the others." In reality, he admired Yi Chun quite a bit. To him, although Yi Chun was a native of the declining celestial burial planet, he was far superior to him in terms of talent and decisiveness. Boom! As his voice fell, the world instantly shook, as if it had been enveloped by an endless killing intent. Indeed, the Panwu Immortal Sect's powerhouse laughed from extreme anger. Mad Southern Yi is bloodthirsty. Even the heavens won't tolerate it. He could not help but look up at Lei Yunzi as he spoke. "Old geezer Lei Yun, the people of China sure are promising. They've almost wiped out all 5 of our holy lands." Oof. Lei Yunzi snorted coldly. "Mad Southern Yi is no longer a Chinese. Please don't drag China into this. If you insist on dragging us into this, don't blame me for being rude. Moreover, Huang Fuyu of the Xinyuan 8 clans has yet to come out." At this time, even though he pitied Yi Chun, he had no choice but to stand against him. After all, this matter concerned the rise and fall of the Chinese cultivation world. With his reminder, everyone present realized that not only did Mad Southern Yi not come out, even Huang Fuyu was the same. Very good. The heavenly lord of absolute beginning smiled sinisterly and looked at Jiang Li coldly. Who obtained the emperor's seal? Swoosh! In an instant, countless gazes turned to Jiang Li and the rest. After all, they all had the possibility of possessing the emperor's seal. How could Jiang Li not know his own situation? He immediately said, "Seniors, we did not obtain the emperor's seal. We only saw the emperor's seal, and we were teleported out by Old Man Great Desolation's remnant soul before it disappeared." That's right, everyone. If we had the emperor's seal, with your abilities, you would naturally be able to tell at a glance. The heavenly jade, holy maiden, and the rest hurriedly defended themselves. The emperor's seal was a hot potato. Even though countless people wanted to obtain it, it did not mean that they were willing to take the blame for others. Listening to their explanations, the people from the great Jiang dynasty and the heavenly jade holy land heaved a sigh of relief while feeling disappointed. The heavenly lord of absolute beginning and the Panwu immortal sex powerhouses obviously did not believe them. They only completely believed Jiang Li and the rest after using their divine consciousness to personally examine them. The heavenly lord of absolute beginning could not help but ask, "Do you know who obtained the emperor's seal?" "I'm not too sure either." Jiang Li took a deep breath and said, "At that time, before Old Man Great Desolation's remnant soul died, he dragged Mad Southern Yi and Huang Fuyu into a mysterious space, and then we were teleported out." After saying that, he immediately recounted what he saw in the desolate god's tomb. After hearing that Old Man Great Desolation was entangled by a demon general in the demonic earth, many people were secretly shocked. Who is this Feng Wuxia? The heavenly jade, holy maiden, and the other old monsters at the void training stage could not help but look at each other. It was obvious that it was the first time they had heard of this person. They did not expect that this person was not inferior to Huang Fuyu. Now it seems that the Emperor Seal is most likely obtained by these three people. The great Jiang God dynasty's third duke, Jiang Hanyuan, said with a flicker in his eyes, "In my opinion, among these three people, Huang Fuyu is the most likely to obtain the Emperor Seal's recognition. After all, he is the descendant of the great Emperor Xinyuan." At this point, he could not help but look at Lei Yunzi and said with a faint smile, "Fellow Lei Yun, I have to congratulate the 8 Xinyuan clans in advance." At the same time, everyone looked at Lei Yunzi in unison. Lei Yunzi said calmly, "Don't say that too early. Don't forget that there is still Mad Southern Yi and Feng Wuxia." Although he said that, he was also sure that Huang Fuyu obtained the Emperor's seal. After all, the 8 Xinyuan clans were the descendants of the great Emperor Xinyuan. If the descendants of the great Emperor Xinyuan could not obtain the Emperor's seal, then no one else in the world could. I didn't expect that old geezer Lei Yun to win in such an ending. The Taichu heavenly sovereign smiled insincerely. This time, his Taichu dojo suffered the most losses, including the divine sons and the disciples who entered the desolate god's tomb. None of them came out alive. How could he not be furious? Thinking to this point, the killing intent in his heart skyrocketed. He secretly made up his mind that whether it was Mad Southern Yi or Huang Fuyu, he would completely annihilate them today. Boom! Boom! At this moment, the exit of the desolate god's tomb, which had not moved for a long time, shook violently again. Then, a figure with a monstrous aura rushed out. The figure had a head of dazzling silver hair, but his handsome features seemed a little gloomy at this moment. Chapter 1556. Time passed bit by bit, and night fell. In the desolate god's tomb, there was a place that no one had ever set foot in before. It was also the most dangerous place in the desolate god's tomb. As far as the eye could see, boundless darkness enveloped everything. Endless evil demonic energy wantonly covered everything, as if it wanted to turn the entire desolate god's tomb into a demonic land. Amidst the terrifying demonic energy, there was a figure standing quietly, as if the demonic energy could not shake him at all. "Is this the demon abyss that you mentioned?" Yichen raised his eyes. 2 golden beams shot out from his eyes, as if they ignored the boundless darkness and wanted to see the entire desolate god's tomb. In front of him, demonic energy that was as black as ink penetrated the heavens and the earth. The demonic energy invaded all living beings in this place, as if they were standing in an abyss. As the crimson divine flames flickered, the Emperor Seal's artifact spirit, Old Fan, appeared. The reason why the Great Desolation Old Man chose this place as the desolate god's tomb was because there was a demon abyss here, and there seemed to be a demon suppressed inside. Demon? Yi Chen's eyes flashed as if he wanted to see through the endless darkness. This demon existed here before the desolate god's tomb was built. To be able to be called a demon, even if it could not compare to the mysterious immortals above the 9 heavens, it was not inferior to the tribulation stage cultivators of the cultivation world. That's right. Old Fan nodded slightly and said, back then, after great Emperor Xinyuan suppressed his immortal body and immortal soul, it attracted the covetous eyes of countless people from the outer realm. In addition, the barrier of the Inshu world was broken, causing the energy of the demon world and the netherworld to spread. Therefore, this is the origin of the demonic earth. He sighed faintly. There are many terrifying existences in the demonic earth, and the demonic earth energy is constantly invading the outside. If not for the barrier seal left behind by the great emperor, I'm afraid the so-called outer area, core, and forbidden zone would not exist in the entire Inshu. Yi Chen frowned. Then how did this demon come here? If there really was a barrier seal left by great Emperor Xinyuan with his ability to suppress ancient immortals, how could a mere demon pass through the seal? I'm not sure about that. Old Fan's eyes flickered. Clearly, he understood the meaning behind his words and muttered, I hope this demon was not placed here by someone with ill intentions. Back then, I was brought out by Old Man Great Desolation, and my spiritual nature was chaotic. Even if I sensed it, I could not do anything. No matter what, since I've encountered this devil today, I'll eliminate him to prevent him from harming Earth in the future. Yi Chen shook his head. Then, golden flames burned in his eyes, piercing through the darkness of the entire demon abyss. Amidst the vast devil chi, there was a flight of stairs leading to the end of the darkness. Yi Chen's eyes flashed. He stepped forward and walked up the stairs. Old Fan turned into a divine dragon and hovered above his head, illuminating the entire demonic abyss. It seemed to be a demonic well with no end. Yi Chen studied it as he walked. The wanton demonic energy was getting more and more terrifying. In the end, it was as if a demonic sea had erupted. Yi Chen suddenly said, although this demonic energy is extremely pure, it carries a trace of death energy as if its body is rotted. Could it be that what's being suppressed below isn't a demon, but a demonic corpse? That's possible, Old Fan said solemnly. As the two of them ventured deeper, they finally arrived at a huge karst cave. There were countless caves that looked like a beehive, and Yi Chen had entered from one of the entrances. In the center of the karst cave, there was a huge cloud of black mist. Within the black mist, one could vaguely see a huge creature. The black mist was emitted from its body. Apart from the terrifying devil chi, there was also endless death energy. As the two mixed together, they continuously spewed out into the countless caves around them. It's really a demonic corpse. The raging flames in Yi Chen's eyes soared again. In his eyes, there was an incomparably huge man in the black mist. The man floated in midair. His body was like a mummy, and his skin was dark purple. The most attractive thing about him was that this man had 3 vertical eyes, all of which exuded a strange aura. On his face, there were faint flickering demonic patterns that were extremely evil. It really is a demonic corpse. Yi Chen's eyes flickered, and it looks like it's a 3-eyed demon from the devil world. No wonder it gave me such a familiar feeling. At his peak, he had led the immortal world's army to fight the devil world more than once. In the devil world's army, the most difficult to guard against was the 3-eyed demon. The members of the 3-eyed demon race were born with 3 eyes, and each eye possessed extraordinary magical powers, such as soul snatching. Old Fan suddenly said, "What's that on him?" After his reminder, Yi Chen realized that there was a seedling on the 3-eyed demon's body. The seedling was golden and was only the size of a palm. It looked like a seedling that had just grown out of the ground. However, it was this seedling that remained motionless on the demonic corpse. "What's this?" Yi Chun was shocked at first, and then his body shook violently. "This is the world tree seedling." In this endless world, there was a divine object. This object was known as the world tree, also known as the supreme sky tree. This object stood in the middle of the world. Legend had it that the world tree could grow endlessly and eventually grow directly into the immortal world. Therefore, countless people frantically searched for the world tree because of this seemingly absurd rumor, trying to use the world tree to reach the immortal world. Although this rumor seemed absurd to others, it was worthless to Yi Chun. When he had just ascended to the immortal world, he had seen the world tree that had grown from the mortal world into the immortal world, causing the order of the three realms to be in complete chaos. At that time, the master of the ancient heavenly court, immortal Emperor Daojin, ordered people to cut it off. As a result, the world tree turned into countless fragments that scattered throughout the heavens. It also stopped the people of the lower realm from thinking of ascending to the heavens. Yi Chun did not expect to see a world tree seedling here. Could this seedling be born from the fragment that was cut off back then? Yi Chun started to size up the demonic corpse as he thought to this point. Subsequently, his gaze focused on the demonic corpse's heart. There was a golden fragment the size of a fist, and the golden seedling had grown from it. As expected, Yi Chun came to a realization immediately. He could not help but say in surprise, "I didn't expect there to be a fragment of the world tree here. Moreover, it has taken root and sprouted." He then sized up the demonic corpse and said in the end, "This demonic corpse has died a long time ago. Moreover, a portion of its cultivation base and essence energy have been absorbed by this fragment of the world tree. That's why I can take root and sprout." Is this demonic corpse already dead? The Emperor Seal's artifact spirit, Old Fan, heaved a sigh of relief. Just when he was about to speak, he saw Yi Chun suddenly walk toward the demonic corpse. Then, a palm-sized dark green bottle appeared in his hand. P.S. There's still one more chapter. I'm halfway through writing it. Everyone, please wait patiently. Chapter 1557. It was like a freaking nanny in the city. The bottle was crystal clear like jade, about the size of a baby's palm. Its entire body was engraved with birds, beasts, insects, and fish, and it did not even have a lid. Under the illumination of the moonlight, the immortal drift bottle trembled slightly and emitted a weak green light. "What is this?" Old Fan was dumbfounded. Yi Chun seemed to have not heard him. He lifted his head and glanced at the pale moonlight that was refracting in from the countless entrances around him. His gaze finally landed on the dark green bottle in his hand. For some reason, when he saw the supreme sky tree sapling, an impulse suddenly flashed through his mind. I wonder if this immortal drift bottle can accelerate the growth of the supreme sky tree. Yi Chun immediately picked up the immortal drift bottle and poured it gently on the supreme sky tree sapling on the demonic corpse. A drop of green liquid dripped out of the bottle and landed on the golden supreme sky tree sapling. At the same time, Yi Chun's gaze was fixed on the sapling. However, to his disappointment, the supreme sky tree sapling did not move at all, and the green liquid in the immortal drift bottle slowly dripped down along the leaves. Is it not possible? Yi Chun frowned slightly. After hesitating for a moment, he poured another drop of green liquid on the supreme sky tree sapling. As the second drop of green fell, a strange scene unfolded. A strange scene immediately appeared. The supreme sky tree sapling, which was originally motionless, suddenly trembled violently. Then, the demonic corpse below, it shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. The demonic chi and blood in its body surged into the supreme sky tree sapling. While this sudden scene caused the Emperor Seal's weapon spirit to be so shocked that he could not close his mouth, Yi Chun's expression was quietly filled with joy. In just a few breaths of time, the three-eyed demonic corpse shriveled and withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, only some hair was left, and the rest was absorbed by the supreme sky tree sapling. After absorbing the demonic corpse's blood, the supreme sky tree sapling began to emit a dazzling golden light and began to expand crazily. Its shape also changed. 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters, 50 centimeters. In the end, it grew to a height of more than a meter. The weapon spirit of the Emperor's seal, who was standing at the side, was shocked. He seemed to see a towering divine tree that pierced through the barrier between the celestial world and the lower world, and went straight into the vast blue sky. After recovering from the illusion with great difficulty, he once again looked at the supreme sky tree sapling that had soared to a height of more than 1 meter with shock in his eyes. Grow, continue to grow. Yi-chun poured out the last drop of green liquid again. He hoped that the supreme sky tree seedling would continue to grow. He looked forward to seeing if it could return to its peak in the past. However, to his disappointment, the supreme sky tree sapling stopped growing when it reached 1.5 meters. Could it be that the green liquid is not enough? Yi-chun's eyes flickered. He lowered his head and looked at the demonic corpse that had disappeared. He seemed to have understood something. Could it be that this supreme sky tree needs to absorb blood? Only by nourishing it can it continue to grow. At that moment, another change occurred. Under his gaze, he saw a golden fruit growing at a speed visible to the naked eye on the meter-tall supreme sky tree. Although it was called a fruit, it was actually a golden ball at first glance. There seemed to be the shadow of an ancient god within the fruit, looking down on everything. The supreme sky tree fruit. Yi-chun's expression changed again. This is the legendary supreme sky tree fruit, also known as the longevity fruit. No, it's just the prototype of the supreme sky tree fruit. This was because the fruit had not completely condensed into a physical body. Even so, Yi-chun still felt the overly dense spiritual energy from it. It was as if a single whiff could cause the true origin energy in his body to go berserk. It's a pity. If it's the real longevity fruit, then Yuhan's injuries can be cured. Even if it's not the real longevity fruit, it's enough. Yi-chun suppressed the shock in him and muttered, "With this fruit, I can recover to the void refinement stage." Thinking to this point, he could not help but turn around and look at the weapon spirit of the Emperor's seal. "I'm going into closed-door cultivation. Protect me outside for the time being." "How long will it take?" the weapon spirit asked subconsciously. In his opinion, Yi-chun must have reached a bottleneck. It would take at least 8 to 10 years for him to enter closed-door cultivation. After 8 to 10 years, the outside world would have been turned upside down. Yi-chun said, "Very soon, in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn." The weapon spirit thought that he had heard wrongly. The time it takes for an incense stick to burn? Yi-chun did not reply. He waved his sleeve and put away the prototype of the longevity fruit. Then, he walked into one of the surrounding caves and raised his hand to set up a barrier. He swallowed the prototype of the longevity fruit. As his cultivation method circulated quickly, he immediately refined the terrifying spiritual energy at a speed visible to the naked eye. Boom! Boom! At that moment, the aura that belonged to a perfected god transformation stage cultivator began to skyrocket at an astonishing speed. Outside the demon abyss, the weapon spirit of the Emperor's seal, Old Fan, stroked his beard and looked into the demon abyss as he muttered, "You only need the time it takes for an incense stick to burn? This is getting more and more incomprehensible. I only hope that it'll be quick. The Emperor's tomb is about to open. After all, this matter concerns the survival of billions of living beings in this world." He sighed softly to himself, and there was an unconvinced expression on his face. At the same time, outside the desolate god tomb, countless figures with powerful auras stood in the vast world. The most terrifying ones were the 5 figures in the void. However, at this moment, the atmosphere between heaven and earth seemed to be a little gloomy and anxious. In the void, the Taichu heavenly lord looked down, and his face twitched. "Bastard, it's already been 4 hours. Why hasn't Mad Southern Yi come out yet?" When he thought about how Yi-chun had flattened the Taichu dojo alone and killed many people from the Taichu dojo, he could not suppress the killing intent in his heart. The big shot from the martial immortal sect said coldly. Could it be that this person knows that we're waiting for him outside, so he doesn't dare to appear? At this point, he could not help but look at Huangfu Yu. Nephew Huangfu, you were the last to come out. Are you sure that Mad Southern Yi is still in the desolate god tomb? Of course. Huangfu Yu said seriously. There's only one entrance and exit to the desolate god tomb. I'm sure that he's still inside. Everyone, just wait patiently. Apart from the resentment in his heart, he could not help but gloat. Yichun, oh Yichun, so what if you obtain the Emperor's seal? Today, the 5 Void Refinement stage old monsters have joined forces to block the door. As long as he dares to come out, he will definitely die here. The Taichu Heavenly Lord snorted coldly. I don't believe that he won't come out for the rest of his life. Almost at that moment, in the depths of the desolate god tomb, within the demonic abyss, the vast demonic energy suddenly turned into a black hole that swept back crazily. At the center of the black hole, there was actually a figure sitting there. Facing the terrifying storm, the figure did not move, like an old monk in meditation. Boom! Suddenly, the figure opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, an aura that seemed like the descent of an ancient god erupted from his body. Chapter 1558. He had advanced to the Void Refinement stage. At this moment, thick demonic clouds were rolling in the desolate god's tomb. The demonic clouds were condensed from all the demonic energy in the desolate god's tomb. The density of the demonic energy had reached an extremely terrifying level. Other than that, there was still a terrifying demonic aura gathering towards the demon abyss from all directions of the wilderness god's tomb, as if a demon god was being born. What's going on? The Emperor Seal's artifact spirit, Old Fan, stood at the exit of the demon abyss and looked at the demonic clouds that had gathered above the demon abyss in shock. This was because the density of the demonic energy had already exceeded his understanding. It was almost comparable to the demonic earth. Even a Void Refinement old monster would be inexplicably fearful here. This guy actually caused such a commotion when he was in closed-door cultivation. Old Fan took a deep look at the demon abyss and frowned. This kid's body is filled with righteous energy. He doesn't seem to have cultivated demonic techniques. However, why did closed-door cultivation attract so much demonic energy? Rumble. Not long after he finished speaking, the huge demonic cloud in the sky forcefully distorted, and then a resplendent flame slowly appeared from within. Buzz! The flame became more and more resplendent, and in the end, it turned into a figure. The figure was as handsome as jade and had a heroic bearing. His eyes shone and shot out a shocking beam of light that turned into a terrifying pressure, causing the space to seem unable to bear it. Void Refinement stage. Seeing this, Old Fan was stunned at first, and then a trace of shock appeared on his old face. He actually broke through to the Void Refinement stage. How could he have done it in such a short period of time? 30 minutes ago, he clearly remembered that Yi Chun was still at stage soul formation. 30 minutes later, the person standing before him was a Void Refinement stage cultivator. Even though Yi Chun had told him that he only needed 30 minutes to break through, he had doubted it at that time. He did not expect it to be true. While Old Fan was shocked, he immediately thought of the crux of the problem. Was it the fruit of the so-called world tree that made him? Just as I expected, Yi Chun hovered in the air and allowed the terrifying demonic energy to envelop him. He muttered after sensing the true origin energy in his body, as expected of the longevity fruit. Even though it's just a prototype, it allowed me to recover to beginner stage Void Refinement in one go. This trip to the desolate god's tomb can be considered to have gained something. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, the gigantic demonic cloud that covered heaven and earth began to boil. It was as if a terrifying demonic beast was venting and roaring at Yi Chun. Yi Chun's expression remained the same. He clenched his slender hands lightly. How can you stay in this world with such filthy energy? In an instant, the air rumbled as if an invisible millstone was being pushed through the air, crushing everything in its path. Under Old Fan's dumbfounded expression, The demonic clouds in the void shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye, like dough being squashed. In the end, the terrifying demonic cloud turned into 3 black balls of light that were about the size of a human head. The black balls of light were as black as ink, and even though they were so far away, Old Fan could still feel the terrifying power coming from them. "What is this?" He swallowed his saliva and asked subconsciously. "True demonic ball." Yichin looked at the 3 black balls of light in his hand and said slowly, "It's condensed from the purest demonic energy. You can think of it as a bomb. However, if an ordinary void refinement cultivator encounters a bomb like mine," Old Fan could not help but feel his scalp go numb when he heard that. At the same time, the sky above the desolate god's tomb became extremely clear. Clearly, all the demonic energy that had invaded the desolate god's tomb had been cleared by Yichin. "It's time to go out." Yichin took one last look at the desolate god's tomb. He then landed on the ground slowly and walked toward the exit of the desolate god's tomb. "If you go out this time, you'll definitely be hated by others. You must be careful," Old Fan reminded. "Countless people are plotting for the Emperor's seal. As the saying goes, an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. If they find out that you've obtained the Emperor's seal, they'll definitely attack you." Yichin smiled lightly. "So what?" Old Fan said, "What I mean is, after you go out this time, find a way to enter the demonic land and find those 3 guys. They can protect you." Yichin suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at him. "If I'm not wrong, the 3 guys you're talking about must have followed the great Emperor Xinyuan back then. One of them is even the realm guardian of Su. Looks like you know everything." Old Fan was slightly stunned, and then he did not hide it anymore. The 3 of them followed the great emperor back then, especially the eldest. After the great emperor shed his slough and stepped onto the heavenly path, the eldest turned into a tomb-guarding beast to protect the great emperor's tomb. "Don't think that I'm scaring you." Old Fan glanced at him and shook his head slightly. "Su isn't as simple as you think. Although you've stepped into the void refinement stage and have the ability to protect yourself, it doesn't mean that no one can threaten you." Yichin's eyes flickered slightly. "Is that so?" Old Fan's words reminded him of the demon god forest Chinchio Wuan, the immortal pagoda's pathmaster of carnal desires, and the mysterious existence in the heavenly tomb. The 3 of them were all tribulation stage almighties in the spirit realm, although their cultivation levels had fallen because they were pursuing ancient immortals. No one knew how many tricks they had up their sleeves. However, Yichin was extremely calm inside. In terms of abilities and shrewdness, when had he ever been afraid of anyone? Moreover, he had already recovered to the void refinement stage. "Let's go." He could not help but smile when he thought to this point. At the exit of the desolate god's tomb, there was a teleportation formation that was emitting a dazzling light. However, if one looked closely, they would discover that the light was weakening at a fast rate. Beside the formation stood a man and a woman. Feng Ze, who was dressed in red, looked at the weakened teleportation formation, then raised her eyes to look at the desolate god's tomb. She gritted her teeth and said, "Why isn't Senior Yi out yet? Once the energy of this teleportation formation is exhausted, it will be difficult for us to leave." In front of her, a handsome red-haired young man leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. He was lazily sizing up the former, as if he was savoring something. Sensing his gaze, Feng Ziyue turned around and glared at him. She said fiercely, "Feng, where are your dog eyes looking?" "Of course I'm looking at you." Seeing her pouting coquettishly, Feng Wuxie smiled faintly and said in all seriousness, "Sister, it's not that I'm not human, but your figure is too charming." Bastard. Feng Ziyue had come from a prominent family since she was young, so she had never heard such teasing words. She was so angry that her face turned green. "You're really a scum among cultivators." "Scum, that's a good word. I like it." Feng Wuxie whistled frivolously. Just as he was about to speak, the smile on his face suddenly disappeared, and he suddenly looked into the depths of the desolate god's tomb. P.S. Chapter 1. There's still one more chapter. I'll be done soon. End of this chapter. Chapter 1559. Fong Ziyue was stunned at first when she saw his abnormal behavior. Then, she looked in the direction he was looking. There was a slender figure walking over slowly. As he appeared, the space seemed to be unable to withstand it. When she saw the person's face clearly, Fong Ziyue was surprised and delighted. "Senior Yi, why haven't you left yet?" Yichen glanced at her in surprise. "I've been waiting for you here, Senior Yi." Fong Ziyue smiled lightly and said, "Congratulations to Senior Yi for obtaining the Emperor's Seal's recognition." Before this, she had met Huang Fuyu long ago. Although she did not know the real situation, she could vaguely guess from Huang Fuyu's ugly expression that he did not obtain the Emperor's Seal. She had also tested Feng Wuxia and found out that he did not obtain the Emperor's Seal. As a result, the Emperor's Seal naturally belonged to Yichen. "Thank you." Yichen nodded lightly. Subsequently, his gaze became a little strange. He was not sure if Fong Ziyue's purpose in coming to the desolate god's tomb this time was to look for the Emperor's Seal. If that was the case, things would become a little awkward. After all, the Emperor's Seal had already acknowledged him as its master. With Old Fan's temper, it was almost impossible for him to change it to someone else. If he did not give the Emperor's Seal to Fong Ziyue, his previous agreement with her would be invalid. As if sensing what he was thinking, Fong Ziyue took the initiative to resolve the awkwardness. "Don't worry, Senior Yi. I'm not here for the Emperor's Seal. I made a promise with you." Yichen said, "If your goal is really the Emperor's Seal, I can lend it to you. Take it back and fight for control of the Tianyuan Trading Company." "Thank you." Fong Ziyue was overjoyed to hear that. Yichen nodded and looked at Feng Wuxia, who was standing aside. Subsequently, he seemed to have noticed something and said with a faint smile, "Congratulations, Brother Feng." Feng Wuxia was at perfected God transformation stage before this, but he had already stepped into early stage void refinement stage. Clearly, he had benefited from the desolate god's tomb. "Isn't Brother Yi the same?" Feng Wuxia looked at him deeply and said, "The reason why I stay to wait for you is to give you a message. Insu's peaceful days will not last long. If you go out, please be careful, especially that Huang Fuyu." At this point, his eyes flashed. "Even I cannot see through this person. Although he did not obtain the Emperor's Seal this time, he will definitely not give up on the Emperor's tomb. The two of you are still fighting." Yichen said in surprise, "Why did Brother Feng say that to me?" He and Feng Wuxia got to know each other in the desolate god's tomb and had never interacted with each other before, so there was no friendship between them at all. Because of an old friend. Hearing that, Feng Wuxia's eyes flashed a few times, and then his expression turned to one of reverence. "You have the aura of that old friend. That's all I have to say. I hope Brother Yi will remember this well." With that, he immediately turned around and stepped into the teleportation formation. With a huge fluctuation of teleportation power, his figure immediately disappeared on the spot. This person is quite interesting. After watching him disappear, Yi Chenmo secretly transmitted his voice. "Old Fan, do you know about this person's background? This person is from the outer realm." Old Fan said, "I don't know his exact background, but his potential is not lower than Huang Fuyu's. If he did not come from the outer realm, the ownership of the Emperor's Seal would still be up for discussion. The outer realm..." Yi Chen's eyes flashed, and he immediately stopped thinking about it. He lifted his head to look at Fong Ziyue next to him. "Ms. Fong, it's time for us to go out." "Senior Yi." Fong Ziyue wanted to say something but hesitated. "You've killed too many people in the desolate god's tomb this time. I'm afraid the news has already been leaked. I reckon there are many people waiting for you outside. If necessary, I can ask my third grandpa and Elder Ku to help you." "No need." Yichen smiled lightly. Subsequently, he waved his sleeve and stepped into the formation light screen that was about to be extinguished with her in tow. At the same time, outside the desolate god's tomb, the 5 void refinement stage almighties, led by the heavenly lord of absolute beginning, worked together and set up a sealing formation, sealing off an area of 100 kilometers. An invisible killing intent suddenly soared in the void. However, after waiting for a long time, not only did they not see Yi Chen, but even the formation at the exit of the desolate god's tomb did not move at all. The formation led to the desolate god's tomb. Other than that, there was no other passage. Looks like Mad Southern you won't come out. The third prince of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Hong Yuan, frowned slightly, as if he had completely lost his patience. Forget it. I still have important matters to attend to, so I won't accompany all of you to wait here. After saying that, he turned around and glanced at Jiang Li behind him, signaling the latter to leave with him. After hearing his words, the woman from the heavenly jade Holy Land also smiled. I also have important matters to attend to. It's time for me to return. Seeing that the formation that he had painstakingly formed was about to collapse, the heavenly lord of absolute beginning frowned slightly and subconsciously wanted to speak. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, a resplendent formation light screen shot out from the exit of the desolate god's tomb. It's moving, it's moving. Seeing this scene, someone present was pleasantly surprised. The exit formation has moved. Someone is coming out. It must be Mad Southern Yi. Swoosh! In an instant, everyone's attention was drawn to him. Huang Fuyu, who was standing behind Lei Yunzi, was no exception. A ferocious glint flashed through his eyes. Yi-chun, oh Yi-chun, I thought you were planning to hide in there for the rest of your life. I didn't expect you to be unable to hold it in. Everyone, get ready. The heavenly lord of absolute beginning sent a voice transmission with his divine sense. His gaze locked onto the exit. Wong. After the light from the formation reached its peak, a figure shot out from it. Attack! The heavenly lord of absolute beginning was the first to be unable to hold it in. Almost at the instant the figure appeared, his left hand glowed and rapidly expanded, pressing down on the former, forming a powerful pressure. This was a great divinity. It was as if his palm had turned into a vast sky, wanting to completely suppress and kill all enemies in this time. Walala! At the same time, the figure that shot out burst out with resplendent divine flames. The divine flames were like dazzling divine chains that crushed toward the heavenly lord of absolute beginning, almost filling the entire void. Boom! With a loud bang, the two of them seemed to have completely ignited the void, causing everyone to be incomparably shocked. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Then the heavenly lord of absolute beginning retreated over 30 meters. He looked at the figure in the distance with an incomparably serious gaze. You're not Mad Southerny? In front of everyone's eyes, that figure transformed into a handsome, red-haired young man in the void. The red-haired young man sized up the world for a while, before saying to the person behind him with a faint smile, Brother Yi, I didn't expect these people to cause such a commotion just to deal with you. Chapter 1560. The vibrating void suddenly became terrifyingly silent. The countless figures standing between heaven and earth fixed their eyes on the red-haired young man at the exit of the desolate god's tomb. The former was actually fighting with the heavenly lord, and from the looks of it, they seemed to be on par. Whoosh! This short period of deathly silence was soon drowned by waves of uproar that were like a tempestuous storm. Who was the heavenly lord? He was the ancestor of Sect, one of the top existences in the world, but there was an extremely young man who was on par with him. Not only them, but even the eyes of the Panwu immortal Sect's powerhouse and the great Jiang Divine Dynasty's third prince, Jiang Hong Yuan, and the others shrank. They had clearly seen that although the heavenly lord seemed to have been repelled, he did not use his full strength. Even so, it was enough to make them wary. Under everyone's gaze, the heavenly lord's face twitched slightly. Then, he locked his sharp gaze on the red-haired young man. Junior, you're not Mad Southerny. Who are you? Void refinement stage. Through the exchange, just now, he had already tested the former's cultivation level. It was at the early stage of void refinement. Old man, it doesn't matter who I am. Facing his question, Feng Wuxie smiled faintly. What's important is, are you sure you want to fight me today? At this moment, Huang Fuyu suddenly said, He's Feng Wuxie. What? He's Feng Wuxie? As soon as this was said, the expressions of everyone present changed. Obviously, they did not expect the young man fighting with the heavenly lord to be Feng Wuxie. So it's you. The heavenly lord's eyes flashed. Then he sneered. Since you're not Mad Southerny, Please leave quickly. Don't take the initiative to provoke this unexpected disaster. Feng Wuxia looked extremely young, but he had stepped into the void refinement stage. This made him wonder about the former's background. It was very likely that the former was from some primordial god clan. It was best not to provoke such an existence if possible. Fight if you want. Are you trying to bully me because I'm young? Unexpectedly, Feng Wuxia did not fall for his trick. He deliberately looked at him provocatively. I just broke through, and many of my abilities are useless. Why don't you warm up with me? Bastard. The Heavenly Lord of the Absolute Beginning Heavenly Lord was incomparably furious. You think a junior like you is worthy of fighting me? Don't think that you have the right to be arrogant just because you've entered the void tempering stage. Are they going to fight? The surrounding people quietly watched this scene, their hearts fluctuating. Feng Wuxia's eyes turned cold, and he was just about to say something when a calm voice suddenly sounded from behind him. Brother Feng, why do you need to deal with this old dog? Why not leave it to this ye to slaughter? Boom! That voice was incomparably loud, causing the heavens and earth to rumble endlessly. At that moment, under everyone's gazes, the exit of the desolate god's tomb behind Feng Wuxia was followed by a resplendent light screen blossoming. A thin figure walked over with his hands clasped behind his back. That figure's black robes fluttered in the wind, and he was as handsome as a god. Behind him was a woman in red robes, delicate and elegant. The two of them stood together like a celestial couple. Suddenly, the world fell into a deathly silence. Swish, swish, swish. Mad Southerny is finally here. What? He's Mad Southerny? At that moment, regardless of whether it was in the sky or on the ground, everyone's gazes were gathered on that figure. They were all too familiar with these three words. First, this person went on a killing spree with Insu a month ago, slaughtering many soul formation cultivators. He even flattened the Taichu Taoist ground by himself, and even fought to a draw with the Taichu Heavenly Lord's Divine Will Projection. After that, this person had come to Insu, killed the young master, and annihilated the Son of God. All of these deeds had spread throughout Insu, so how could everyone not pay attention to them? Almost at the moment when Yichen appeared, a figure suddenly appeared. In the demon god forest, Qinshou Wuhan stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were as vast as the stars as he smiled. Early void tempering? His aptitude isn't bad. In the immortal tower, the pathmaster of human desire looked up. Ling Long, who was beside him, pursed her lips and said, Pathmaster, should we attack? No. The former stretched lazily and said with a faint smile, These pieces of trash don't know that I'll attack. Let's watch the show for now. 5 pieces of trash. Ling Long was stunned at first. Then she revealed a silly smile. Even if they're trash, they're still at the void tempering stage. Can that person deal with them? If that person from the demon god forest gets there first. I won't, and that guy won't either. The pathmaster of human desire knew everything. That guy knows very well that he's waited for countless years. He won't lose his composure at this critical moment. In the demonic land, Ling Long seemed to understand and hesitated. Will the World Guardian attack? After all, that person has obtained the recognition of the Emperor's seal. The Pathmaster of Human Desire fell silent for a few seconds before shaking his head and saying, No. He knew very well that although the World Guardian was powerful, he strictly abided by the rules. He would not rashly break the rules of Insu and violate the restrictions left behind by Great Emperor Xinyuan. Moreover, that night, he had seen a peerless saber gleam injuring the World Guardian in the demonic land. In the vast demonic land, there was a majestic temple in the endless abyss. A huge golden ape stood there, seemingly expressionless. On its shoulder, there was a golden toad jumping up and down. Second brother, hurry up and inform the boss to come out of seclusion. We're going to fight outside. Second brother, are you deaf? That kid obtained the Emperor's seal, so he's half an inheritor of the Great Emperor. If anything happens to him, how can we face the Great Emperor? Shut up. The golden ape suddenly berated with a thunderous voice. The boss said that no one is allowed to move. After being shouted at like that, the golden toad revealed a timid expression and muttered, "In the end, all of you still have hope in that Huang Fu Yu." As he spoke, violent roars came from afar, as if the gates of hell had been opened. The demons roared and announced to the world, "Boom, boom, boom." Suddenly, a few lightning-like saber gleams flashed across the sky. Then, many bloodstains splattered in the endless darkness. That saber moved again. The golden ape said with a serious expression, "I don't know why, but the saber has been moving more and more frequently recently, as if it's been stimulated by something." Creak, creak. Suddenly, the two beasts heard a crisp sound that sounded like joints cracking. "What's that sound?" The golden ape frowned. Then its figure flashed and instantly dashed into the darkness. A group of people and horses came into view. However, the so-called group of people and horses were actually humanoid skeletons. The skeletons in the middle were each carrying a palanquin made of bones. If an ordinary person were to see this, they would definitely be scared to death. At that moment, a golden humanoid skeleton was sitting on the palanquin. The golden skeleton's eyes were burning with divine fire. "It's that stupid skeleton," the golden toad exclaimed when it saw that. "That stupid skeleton has only been in the demonic land for a short while, but has already grown to this stage. My God, this skeleton has an extraordinary background. It's terrifying." The golden ape's eyes flickered. "Where is it going? I know. It's going out. It's going out." The golden toad seemed to have recalled something and roared as if it was on steroids. "That stupid skeleton must be going to help the brat. P.S. There's only one chapter today. I'll update it tomorrow." Chapter 1561. Yi Chen had appeared. He did not move gracefully like Feng Wu Xie, soaring through the skies and burrowing through the earth. With his hands behind his back, he walked out of the teleportation formation at the exit of the desolate god's tomb step by step. His black hair fluttered in the wind, as if he did not notice the terrifying killing intent that filled the world. Along with his appearance, the countless figures standing between the heavens and earth moved because of him. This kid is too young. Whether it's his bearing or aptitude, he's not weaker than the godsons of the various sections. It's hard to imagine that this abandoned planet would give birth to such an outstanding person. I had thought that this person had 3 heads and 6 arms, or that he was a ruthless and murderous demon. I didn't expect him to be so handsome. Countless people's eyes were focused on Yi Chen. Their gazes were filled with shock, surprise, and disbelief. "Is this mad Southern Yi?" Lei Yunzi, who was in the air, stared at Yi Chen. There was a gleam in his eyes. This was the first time he met Yi Chen. Even though both of them were from the Chinese cultivation world, everyone, including him, was in a deep sleep before Earth was unsealed. "What a good look!" Lei Yunzi secretly praised Yi Chen as he looked at the extraordinary Yi Chen. He then sighed softly and said, "What a pity." At that moment, a blood-red gaze suddenly shot at Yi Chen. "Mad Southern Yi, you're finally willing to come out." The person who spoke was the heavenly venerate of absolute beginning. He looked at Yi Chen with an extremely grim gaze and smiled coldly. "I thought you'd stay in there forever." "Old man," Yi Chen looked over and said with a faint smile, "If I don't come out, how am I going to kill you, old dog?" Everyone was shocked when they heard that. The heavenly venerate of absolute beginning was so angry that he laughed. He immediately said, "Mad Southern Yi, you destroyed my Taichu dojo and slaughtered my disciples. Let's end this hatred today. Today, even if you're an immortal, don't even think about leaving this place alive." At the end of his sentence, the world instantly boiled. Terrifying killing intent of the 5 elements sealed off the world, causing countless people to feel extremely nervous. Do the others think so too? Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back and swept his gaze across the world. His gaze swept past the people of the great Jiang God dynasty, the heavenly Jade Holy Land, and the 8 Xinyuan clans. The Panwu immortal sect's powerhouse sneered. "Of course. Mad Southern Yi, you've killed 2 of our Panwu immortal sect's young masters in succession. How can we let such a deep grudge go? The third prince of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Honyuan, took a step forward and looked at Yi Chun. Fellow Yi, logically speaking, you don't have much enmity with the great Jiang God dynasty. However, rumor has it that you look down on our foreign immortal sex and have committed many killings. The great Jiang God dynasty has no choice but to advance and retreat with you. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Li, who was standing behind him, hesitated to speak as if he wanted to plead on Yi Chen's behalf. Uncle. However, before he could finish speaking, he met Jiang Hongyuan's fierce gaze. He swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Brother Yi, I wish you good luck. He could only sigh secretly. As an enemy, he actually admired Yi Chun. After all, it was rare for the latter to cultivate to such a level as a native of an abandoned planet. Yi Chun lifted his eyes to look at Jiang Honyuan. So, you want me to die too? Fellow Yi, you're going too far. Jiang Honyuan shook his head slightly and said, If fellow Yi is willing to repent, give up resisting, and accept our punishment, there might still be a chance. That's right. Hearing this, the heavenly lord of Taichu could not help but smile. As a sign of your sincerity, you need to hand over the emperor's seal and cripple your own cultivation. After saying that, he immediately turned to look at Lei Yunzi, Fong Tianqiu, and the woman from the heavenly jade Holy Land. May I know what the three of you think? Fong Tianqiu took a step forward and looked at Fong Ziyue, who was behind Yi Chun coldly. Evil creature, get over here. Fong Ziyue looked at Yi Chun and then at the former. In the end, she bit the bullet and walked over. She said subconsciously, Uncle, Senior Yi, shut up. Fong Tianqiu berated and looked at Yi Chun. Yi, you bullied Ziyue because she's young and tricked the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce. How do you plan to deal with this? Yi Chun replied, How do you want to deal with it? Very simple. Fong Tianqiu narrowed his eyes slightly. Hand over the Emperor's seal, and I can represent the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce to forgive your sins. I can even protect your safety. Otherwise what? Yi Chun remained calm. Fong Tianqiu's gaze turned cold. Otherwise, you'll definitely die today. Shameless. Hearing this, many people present cursed in their hearts. At that moment, Fong Ziyue's face instantly turned incomparably pale. She did not expect Fong Tianqiu to make such a choice. Thinking to this point, she was about to speak, but she realized that she seemed to have been placed under a restriction. She could not speak, and then she was tightly controlled by someone, unable to move. The beautiful woman from the heavenly jade Holy Land smiled. The heavenly jade Holy Land is willing to advance and retreat with all of you. After her, for the 5 Holy Lands expressed their stance one after another. This time, only the Yanhuang Fortress had not expressed its stance. The heavenly sovereign of absolute beginning looked at Lei Yunzi with a faint smile. Old geezer Lei Yun, what's your attitude? Don't tell me that you can't bear to get rid of this traitor of China? As soon as he said that, countless gazes immediately turned to Lei Yunzi and the rest. Yi Chun looked over calmly. Under everyone's burning gazes, Huang Fuyu took a step forward before Lei Yunzi could speak. He looked at Yi Chun with a sneer. Brother Yi, I wonder if you've ever thought that you'd end up as the enemy of the world today? The hatred he had for Yi Chun had almost reached its peak. This hatred even surpassed when Yi Chun and Earth killed him. At that time, Su Qilin was merely his reincarnation. His greatest loss was losing the Emperor's seal in the desolate God's tomb. This was because the Emperor's seal was related to too many things that he had been plotting for countless years. And? Yi Chun smiled lightly. Sooner or later, you'll have to pay for what you've done. This is the truth since ancient times. Today, I only want to kill all of you, or be killed by all of you. Whoosh. The moment that was said, the entire place was in an uproar. Everyone looked at Yi Chun in extreme disbelief. Under such circumstances, he could still maintain such an attitude? After hearing that, Feng Wuxia, who was at the side, was stunned at first. Then, he rubbed his chin and repeated word by word, Today, I only want to kill all of you, or be killed by all of you. What arrogant words. I like them. End of this chapter.